I woke up in a dying man's body with his memories still settling into place, and the first thing those memories told me was simple. The Lee family is marching up here to finish the job, not to talk, to erase. The Zhang clan of Wudan City is a name 3 generations past its last good year, a starving little house sitting on land the neighbors have been carving up like a holiday goose, and the Lee have finally decided the polite fiction is over. They're coming to kill everyone who shares my new dead face's blood, salt the ground, and take the deeds. And the clan can't stop them, because their one hope, their genius, the boy they sold 30% of everything to send to a real sect, got his Dantian shattered in an ambush and thrown back like spoiled meat. So that's the situation. I've been in this body for the length of one long exhale, and it comes preloaded with a betrayal, a funeral, and an execution scheduled for lunch. That's when the light shows up behind my eyes. I've read enough of a certain kind of story to know exactly what a glowing panel in your own skull means, and I still nearly cry with relief because a system is the only thing in the universe that could make today survivable. It calls itself the strongest clan system. It's giving me a newcomer's pack the way these things do, like the universe felt bad about the whole poisoned family corpse thing and left a fruit basket. 3 gifts. First, an eye, the chaotic Tao eye. One look at anything alive and it hands me the truth of it. Name, cultivation, talent, luck, the whole resume. And it works on anyone up to 2 full tiers above me, which right now is a very generous ceiling considering I am technically tier 0. Second, a body, the innate sacred body, Tao embryo. I don't fully understand it until I feel it, and then I understand it completely, because a golden halo comes up out of my own skin, and the ruined meridians the previous tenant left me start knitting themselves back together with the calm authority of a thing that was never going to accept being broken, an invincible physique, and it's growing into me like it's been waiting. And third, the one that stops my breath. Total clan power. Every scrap of cultivation every member of my clan possesses, I get. All of it, summed, poured into me, stacked on top of whatever I earn myself. And here's the part that reorganizes my entire soul in one sentence. When a clansman dies, my share of them doesn't shrink. What I gain, I keep. Forever. Now, I'm a practical person. My first thought, the ugly reflexive one, is the exploit. Why not just get strong myself and hoard it? Why not chain the mightiest cultivator I can find to my side and drain him? And the system, bless its cold little heart, closes the door before I can even finish being a bad person. The returns only pay out on my clan, never on me. My own strength can only grow one way, up through them, which means the fastest, greediest, most selfish path to power available to me is to make the people around me flourish. To raise a family so strong that carrying its weight makes me a god. I sit with that for exactly 1 heartbeat. A lonely man in a dead man's body, handed a cheat where the only way to win is to love a crowd of strangers hard enough that they thrive. I've had worse deals. I've never had a better one. Then I stop philosophizing because I can hear the Lee at the gate and I fuse. The halo flares. The sacred body drinks the ruined innate foundation and rebuilds it into something the old owner couldn't have dreamed with 100 years and a clean run. And I feel the door he died reaching for just swing open under my hand like it was never locked at all. Innate peak, purple mansion first, second, third. I come out the other side and exhale once without thinking, and the breath goes through the floor and leaves a crater. In the courtyard below, somebody screams. A second panel unfolds while the dust is still hanging. A second system, quieter, underneath the first, and this one is the real engine. Investment returns. Put a resource into a clansman, and it pays you back, sometimes a little, sometimes obscene. The reward scaling with a rank that runs from black through gray, white, green, blue, purple, gold, red, all the way up to a rainbow I can't imagine yet. 9 tiers of the universe would like to gamble with you, and the house is you. I file all of it away in about the time it takes to stand up because standing up is what I need to do. Down in the Great Hall, my new family is dying by inches. I walk the memories toward the sound. The Zhang elders, a handful of stubborn old men, are stalling for a mercy that isn't coming. And in the seat of honor, on furniture that isn't his, sits Li Weijian, patriarch of the Li, peak innate, 9th level, gloating with the specific joy of a man who's been waiting a long time to say cruel things out loud in a room where the victims can't leave. He tosses 10 taels of silver onto the floor like he's tipping a beggar. Buy yourselves coffins, he tells my grand elder. The good wood's wasted on you. He says the Zhang were always Li dogs, that this whole mansion is smaller than the outhouse behind his own, that he can't decide whether wiping the Zhang off the map is a conquest or a spring cleaning. He is having the time of his life, and I want to be fair to him. He has every reason to. His genius is broken, our patriarch is a rumor, our elders are stalling for a mercy that was never coming, and he's brought enough men to make it a formality. From where he's sitting, this isn't a fight, it's a demolition with an audience. He's not wrong about a single fact. He's just wrong about which door I'm standing in, and then, because the day apparently isn't finished with me, 3 men step out of the Jiang ranks and cross the floor to stand behind him. The Wang brothers, retainers, 10 years in this house, 10 years of my dead predecessor's bread, and they've done the math on which way the wind is blowing and picked the Li. They offer up their loyalty, and as a bonus, the last secret the clan had left, that the master, Lin Chang'an, hasn't been seen in 6 years, that there's no one home upstairs, that the great and terrible patriarch is a story the elders tell to frighten creditors. They're right, of course. There isn't anyone home, not the man they mean. The man they mean is a corpse who died being loved to death by people exactly like these. But I'm home now. Destroy my Zhang family? I say it from the doorway, and I don't shout it, and that's what makes the room go cold. You scum don't even deserve to. Everything stops. My elders turn, and I watch it happen on their faces in real time, the moment they recognize the ghost, the idol, the patriarch back from 6 years of nothing, standing in the door in his old blood robe with a look on his face that has never once in its life belonged to a cripple. Hope detonates through them like a struck match, and on the other side of the room, the Li start to understand that the story might have been true after all. Li Weijian shoots to his feet. The gloat is gone. In its place is the oldest expression in the world, the one everyone wears the instant the meal realizes it isn't the diner. Misunderstanding, he says, and he's already stepping back, hands coming up. Clan Chief Zhang, this is a misunderstanding. We can talk about resource allocation. We can. I flick 2 fingers. I don't have a name for what comes off them yet. A thread of pure Yang Yuan energy, no thicker than a thought, but the sacred body means I don't need a name, I need a target, and the target is standing there apologizing. The thread goes through him. There's a wet sound, and a puff of red mist where a peak innate patriarch used to be, and then there's nothing there at all but the 10 tiles of silver he tipped us, lying on the floor with no one left to be insulted by it. Your death, I tell the empty air, is the best explanation. The 3 Wang brothers are on their knees before the mist finishes settling, which is the correct instinct and the wrong lifetime for it. I look at them, and I could hate them, and I find I mostly just feel the tired arithmetic of it. 10 years ago, I say, you should have died at your enemy's hands out there, like men. Since you'd rather owe that debt today, allow me to collect it for them. 3 more flicks. 3 more debts settled. The clan flinches, and then the clan understands. And something in the room that has been bent double for a very long time begins, cautiously, to stand up straight. The Li who came up the hill to watch a slaughter get one instead. Leaderless, they break, and my people, who have been prey for so long they'd nearly forgotten they had teeth, remember all at once. It's not a battle. When it's over, the courtyard is quiet and full, and every Li in it went down with a single clean wound because I am, if nothing else, tidy. A number rises in the corner of my vision, the clan's fortune ticking upward off the day's grim work, and I ignore it because there's a warmth building in my chest that has nothing to do with the system. The system, though, has noticed something too. It's found me my first real investment. It reads the room and picks out my grand elder, ranks him green, and lays the offer on the table like a dealer sliding chips across felt. Put in 1 measly chi-strengthening pill and see what comes back. I've got exactly 1 measly chi-strengthening pill. I put it in. What comes back is a full bottle of marrow-cleansing pills, top of the Zhuan grade, the kind of medicine that scours a body clean, repairs old hidden wounds, and bumps a cultivator's absorption for the rest of his life, from 1 pill. I look at the bottle, and I look at the old man who spent 6 years holding a dying house together on nothing but spite and duty, and I hand it to him. And because kindness in this new life of mine apparently comes with special effects, I let a little of the Purple Mansion pressure off my skin as I do it. Just enough for him to feel. The hall goes silent in an entirely new way. My second Purple Mansion cultivator, someone whispers, the first this clan has had in hundreds of years, and the whisper spreads, and I stand in the middle of it holding nothing, having given everything away, richer than I have ever been in either of my lives. So, new body, new family, a dead man's revenge already half finished before lunch, and a cheat that only pays out when the people I've decided to love win. Let me tell you how we took the world. Here is the thing about revenge, which I learned very fast in this new life. It is a terrible reason to build anything, and an excellent reason to start. The Li are dead. Good. But the Li were only the loudest of 3 dogs that have been feeding on this house. While I was gone, and by gone I mean dead, the Li and the Sun and the Gao families carved the Zhang up between them, mines, fields, shops, the works, and 2 years ago the Li killed my cousin Ren Xiang in the street for the crime of still having a spine. Ren Xiang's son they'd already broken for me, off at a real sect, Dante and shattered, sent home to die, so I don't cool down, I let the system make it official. It reads the day, sees the corpses, and drops a family mission on me like a quest board lighting up. Annihilate the Lee family, scored, and if I do it clean enough, there's a mystery reward waiting at the bottom of the box. My people are already arming, not because I ordered it, because they have a great deal of dead kin to visit, and for the first time in 6 years, someone is standing at the front of the line who can survive the trip. We march out of the gate we were supposed to die behind. We don't get to the Lee before the day hands me the first person I'm going to break myself trying to protect. The system feels him before I see him. It pings a member of my own clan out there in the street, and it ranks him, and the rank it gives him stops me cold, because it's gold. In a house where my grand elder rates green, someone is walking around gold-touched and dying of it. I find him half a block on, a boy folded down onto the cobbles like a dropped coat, having apparently walked the entire distance from a sect that threw him out just to fall down in front of his family's gate. I catch him before his head hits stone, and I turn the chaotic Dao Eye on him and nearly drop him again. His name is Xuan Yuan. His dantian is a ruin, cracked down the middle, exactly the way the rumor said. And underneath the ruin, the eye reads a fortune the color of gold, a talent it doesn't have polite words for, and a single line that reorganizes my understanding of the hand I've been dealt. Reincarnation of an ancient emperor, an immortal fire coiled quiet inside him, and a transformation that completes in one day. One day. This half-dead boy the world already wrote off is a day away from being something the world isn't ready for, and nobody knows it, least of all him. The system, sensing profit, opens the register. Here is what I can invest in the boy, it says, and lays out the menu. And I look at the menu, and I look at the kid, and I do the only math that matters. I give him a marrow cleansing pill from the bottle I just conjured out of thin air. It heals him top to bottom, closes every wound the ambush left, restores everything the road took, everything but the dantian. The dantian I leave, not because I can't fix it. Because I've been in this boy's shoes. In a way, a man handed a broken foundation and told that was the end of the story, and I already know that the pill isn't the thing that's going to save him. When he finds himself healed and whole and still cracked at the core, he does exactly what a boy who's been told he's finished does. He begs me not to throw the clan against a sect for his sake. He's ready to be the tragedy. He's got the whole thing planned out, the noble little grave. A shattered dantian is not the end, I tell him. It's a new beginning. The only thing that has ever actually defeated you, Yuan, is the part of you that agreed you were defeated, and I make him a promise, out loud, in front of the elders, because some promises only work if there are witnesses to hold you to them. I will go to the Thousand Mountains sect, and I will get you the justice they owe you. The elders go pale, because the Thousand Mountains sect is a mountain, and we are a puddle. Yuan goes something else. Something reignites behind his eyes. A will I can watch catch like dry grass, and the clan's fortune ticks up off it, because hope, it turns out, is a resource too. Then I hand him the family's real inheritance, the 2 clan protecting techniques, the thunderclap palm and the chi induction art so guarded that only heads and elders were ever allowed to touch them, arts a boy his age should not see for another decade. I give them to a cracked dantian reject in the street, and the moment I do, the investment returns register rings like a slot machine coming up all bells. 10 bottles of Vajra pills, earth rank, a purple thunder palm, top of the earth tier, a pure yang skill to match. All of it mine, off one gift to one boy, and I master both the palm and the skill in the time it takes to understand them, because the sacred body reads a technique the way you read your own handwriting. I tell the whole clan, then and there, that once the Li are ash, every one of them may cultivate the 2 profound arts. The techniques that were locked in a vault to keep the family special I am about to hand out like bread, because I have finally understood the shape of my own cheat, and it is this. There is no such thing for me as spending. Every gift is a deposit. The more of my strength I give away, the more of it comes back. A clan where everyone is strong is a clan where I am unstoppable. Generosity isn't my virtue, it's my exploit. Yuan wants to come. He can't. Not with his core the way it is, and he knows it, and it costs him something to stay behind that I make a note of, because a boy who hates being protected that much is a boy who is going to spend the rest of his life trying to be the protector. First and last time he vows that he gets left out of a fight. I believe him. I'm counting on it. Then I go find the Li's second act, because the Li aren't quite finished being a cautionary tale. Their surviving brothers are exactly where you'd expect the surviving brothers of a doomed house to be, which is at a party, dividing up spoils they no longer own, one of them mooning over a courtesan, all of them a servant's breathless warning away from understanding that the family is over. Fanshu, the second, grabs a broadsword. Third and fourth Master Li grab whatever dignity they can find, and they charge out to defend an estate that has about 4 minutes left in it. They find the carnage first. They find Fan Shu's rage second, which curdles into a plan to cut a Jiang child in half to feel like a man again, and that's the moment I flick a pure Yang finger across the yard and his head comes apart like a dropped melon. Third and fourth master recognize the figure standing over the mess. They've heard the ghost stories. The fourth I take through the throat before he finishes screaming the name. The third folds straight to his knees and offers generously to make the entire Li family my vassal dogs, which is a bold pitch from a man kneeling in his brother's blood, and it dies in his mouth because the last of the Li has arrived. The Li old ancestor comes down out of the estate like a storm front, ancient, blood-thinned, a purple mansion who should have been a legend and is instead about to be a lesson, and the first thing he does, in a fury I have to respect on some level, is behead his own begging grandson mid-sentence for the crime of groveling. Then he comes for me. I meet him with the purple thunder palm, the one his own dead family's greed just paid into my hand, and the lightning goes into him and finds the pure Yang I've seated there, and the two of them argue about it inside his chest until there's no chest left to argue in. The Li faith in their own permanence dies with the last body that held it. I give the order for the estate, and the Li family is subtracted from the city of Wudan like a debt paid off in full. The system settles up, top grade, full marks, the mission scored to the ceiling. It rains rewards. 300 to the family fortune, a great sun body refining technique, a cultivation acceleration card, a nameless sword manual, and, at the bottom of the box, the mystery prize, something the panel calls a Nuwa contemplation diagram, which I do not remotely understand yet, and which I pocket with the specific greed of a man who has learned that the things he doesn't understand are usually the ones that matter. The Li treasury I empty on the way out, gold, techniques, shop deeds, the accumulated theft of 3 generations coming home. And then we walk back through Wudan City in the daylight, my blood robe and my reject nephew and my clan that isn't prey anymore, and the old people in the doorways start to recognize a face that's supposed to be dead, the dead patriarch, walking. The word goes down every street in the city before we reach our own gate. 3 families had been eating us alive. One of them is gone in an afternoon, and the Zhang took 0 losses doing it, and every cultivator in Wudan does the same quiet arithmetic at the same time and arrives at the same impossible number. The cripple came back, and he came back a purple mansion, and the Zhang are, overnight, the family to fear. 2 of those 3 families are still out there thinking they have time. They don't. That night, the city lord comes to a conclusion over his fish pond. His name is Yuan Kai. He runs Wudan City, and he is exactly smart enough to be dangerous and exactly cowardly enough to be useful, which is my favorite combination in a local official. He does the arithmetic everyone in the city is doing, wiped out a peak-innate family with no losses, and lands on the only answer that fits. The Jiang cripple came home a purple mansion, and there are maybe a handful of those under 50 in the entire prefecture. He calls the 3 families parasites, decides the feud is beneath him to punish, and then remembers the one loose thread that could still hang us all. The Wudan Li were a cast-off branch of the Tiandu Li, a real family, a moonwheel family, the kind with an ancestor who could turn Wudan City into a crater on his way to lunch. So he decides to come see me himself, tomorrow, and take my measure. I let him. A frightened man who wants to survive is a man I can work with. Before he arrives, I do the boring, load-bearing work that keeps a family alive, which is I pay people. I hold a merit meeting, and I reward everyone who bled today, and I do it on one rule that I want carved into the walls. Merit gets paid, and I do not care whose blood you carry. 20-odd of my best fighters each walk away with a marrow cleansing pill. My grand elder gets more, plus the pure Yang skill, quietly, because he's earned quiet. Every single person who lifted a weapon gets stones and pills. This is not charity. This is the exploit again, wearing work clothes. Every pill I hand out is a clansman getting stronger, and every clansman getting stronger is me getting stronger, and a family that learns loyalty is repaid in full is a family that will run into fire for you the next time, and there is always a next time. The crowd looks at me like I've hung a second sun. Let them. A worshipped man gets obeyed, and an obeyed man gets to cultivate in peace. Then I go be greedy in private. I run the great sun body refining art, swallow a Vajra pill, feel my body thicken towards something that could take a hit meant for a mountain. I turn the Nuwa contemplation diagram loose on my soul, and here is where I first understand how badly the rules are broken in my favor, because the soul is supposed to be untouchable until you're a Yuan Shen monster many realms up, and I am sitting here as a fresh purple mansion tempering mine like it's a Tuesday. I unroll the wordless sword scroll and let it push my sword key one rung higher towards sword intent, and the system, watching me eat power like a man who's missed 6 years of meals, lights up a new mission. Family development, on a cycle, scored, perfect marks pay a mystery box. The name targets the Sun family, the Gao family. Wudan City, the panel says, with what I choose to read as dry humor, only needs one great family. That is also the night the boy in the back courtyard catches fire. I feel it before anyone tells me, a heat that has no business existing, and by the time I get there, Xuan Yuan is on his knees glowing like a forge. The immortal fire the eye saw sleeping in his chest has woken up, and it is not gently healing his cracked dantian, it is rebuilding it larger, deeper, better than the original, and then it curls up in the corner of that new dantian like a cat that owns the house. The boy who was finished at sunset breaks through to the second layer of Hutian before dawn, the fire scouring his qi clean and refining his bones as it goes, and somewhere in the middle of it he realizes the truth of his own life, that this fire fell on him the same night the sect threw him off a cliff to die. The worst night of his life was the seed of the best. He doesn't say the poetic thing. He gets up, still smoking faintly, and he comes to find me, because the first thing this boy does with any good news is bring it to the family. That instinct is going to be the making of him and the breaking of my heart, roughly in that order. I've had a good night myself. Total clan power doesn't care that I was cultivating, it just keeps pouring the family's growth into me while I breathe, and I've slid from the third layer of Purple Mansion to the fifth, and somewhere in there my sword Kai crosses over into Sword Intent, which one Purple Mansion in 100 ever manages and which I acquire on the way to bed. When Yuan comes in glowing, I tell him what he needs to hear before he can ask for it. You don't have to go back to that sect. He renounces it on the spot, cleaner than I expected, hands the whole grievance to the family, and calls it home. So I load him up. The pure yang skill, the great sun body refining art. Both earth rank, both worth more than his old sect's entire vault, handed to a boy who was a reject 12 hours ago. And my own personal profound rank sword on top, because a boy needs a blade with a story. The register rings, and it rings big. A sword comes back to me, the Bearing Shadow sword, and it is a heaven-rank treasure, transparent, formless, a blade that isn't there until it's in you. A sword art comes back with it, 10,000 swords return to origin, heaven rank, the kind of things sects go to war over. And a single wisp of something the system calls Golden Crow Chi, a trump that can throw up the phantom of a sun-wheel golden crow for 10 breaths of a god's shadow standing between my family and the end of the world. All of it, off one gift, to one boy. I keep telling you, I do not spend, I deposit. Morning brings the city lord, and right behind him, the other two dogs deciding to try being lapdogs. Yuan Kai. I take first. He's careful, he's polite, and he opens with the thing he thinks is his leverage, the secret of the Li. The Wudan Li, he tells me, were exiles, a branch cast out of the Tiandu Li generations ago, over a scandal so ugly it still has a body count, an ancestor named Wei Qing who broke into the Star Wheel out of pure grief and rage and is inconveniently still breathing somewhere up the ladder as a moonwheel monster. If that old man ever gets nostalgic and comes to visit certain graves, Ding says, the Zhang have a problem no city lord can fix. And then he makes his pitch, which is the pitch these men always make. Join us. Take our protection. Be a smaller thing under a bigger thing and be safe. I let him finish. It costs nothing to let a frightened man audition his fear, because while he's talking, the Sun and the Gao arrive to grovel. They come with gifts and open hands and 40% of their assets on a plate, and a story, ready-made, that lays the entire feud on the conveniently dead Li. It's a good story. It would even work if I didn't have a very specific question for the Gao. See, the pills that killed the man whose face I'm wearing, the poisoned breakthrough pills with the ribbon on them, were bought from a Gao family shop, the Treasure Pavilion. I know this the way I know everything now, because the chaotic Dao eye doesn't just read cultivation, it reads the truth a man is standing on, and Clan Chief Gao is standing on that particular grave. His son Guo Feng, an 8th layer Shantian with more mouth than sense, decides this is the moment to be brave, and I have Xuan Yuan slap him, and while he's reeling, I flick a melon seed, one melon seed, a snack, clean through the meat of the boy's leg. I like the melon seed. I want you to remember the melon seed. It is going to become a habit. Then I stop being cute. I ask Clan Chief Gao who sold the pill. He lies. I put a thread of pure yang through his forehead, and I do the same for the delegation that came to grovel, dozens of them, a storm of palms across the courtyard, and when the dust settles, I answer the offer they came in with. 40%, I tell the corpses. Make it 100. Yuan Kai watches all of this. To his credit, he doesn't run. He plays his last card, the real one. His backer isn't Tiandu, it's higher. The Lord of the Heavenly Capital Prefecture himself, a moonwheel marquis, and the terms attached to that name are simple and total. Step down as chief, hand the Jiang to a manager the prefecture appoints. Serve, personally. He lays it out like a man handing over a winning hand. I've got 3 earth rank arts and a heaven rank technique sitting in my head and a sacred body that laughs at bottlenecks. It is a beggar trying to sell a dream to a man who owns the dream factory, so I decline. He decides to be brave, exactly once, and comes at me, and I flare sword intent at him, just the edge of it. enough to blind a purple mansion, and then I slap him 10 meters into his own wall. He slides down it, understanding at last that a man with sword intent at the 5th layer of Purple Mansion is not a thing that exists, and is therefore a thing he should never have threatened. Before I let him limp out, I extort a permanent commercial tax exemption for the Zhang in writing, because I am building something here and buildings run on money. Then I erase the Sun and the Gao the way I erase the Li, roots and all. 3 great families in 2 days. The city stops calling us lucky. It starts in the quiet corners where people say the true dangerous things, calling us demonic path, because the human mind would genuinely rather believe in a curse than in a man who simply decided to stop losing. Wudan City has one great family now. It has my name on it. I take a private inventory of my new trump. The Bearing Shadow Sword is a strange, wonderful thing. A blade with no shine and no weight and no aura, and the system's own scabbard swallows even that, so that I can carry a heaven-rank killer to a knife fight and have everyone think I brought my hands. I take 10,000 swords returned to origin from a technique I own to a technique I am, driven up to major achievement in a handful of days because the sacred body comprehends a sword art the way water comprehends downhill. The golden crow chi I do not touch. Some trumps you keep face down. 7 days later, when I next look up from cultivating, the whole clan has moved a rung, and Xuan Yuan has discovered something that makes me laugh out loud alone in a room. That immortal fire of his doesn't just heal him, it amplifies the great sun body refining art I gave him, sun feeding sun, so that the boy is now improving at a rate that frightens his teachers. My reject nephew, the finished tragedy, is turning into a runaway engine. Good. Runaway is exactly the speed I need, because the graves of the Wudan Li have a very old, very angry visitor on the way, and he is not going to be a stepping stone I can flick a melon seed through. 7 days does a lot of work in a family that stops starving. Xuanyuan climbs from the 2nd layer of Hutian to the 9th, beats an elder a full grade above him, and gets quietly rebranded by the clan as a prodigy who's already outrunning the young Lin Chang'an of legend, which is a strange thing to hear said about a legend you're currently wearing. 4 elders who'd been stuck for years crack through into Xiantian. My grand elder breaks into Purple Mansion, the second the clans had in living memory. I throw a banquet and invite every small family left in Wudan, and by the end of the night, the Zhang aren't a great family anymore. They're the great family, the hegemon, and Yuan Kai has quietly resolved to never be within a mile of me again. Me, I slide from the 5th layer of Purple Mansion to the 8th in those same 7 days, riding the family's growth the way you'd ride a tide, and my sword intent firms up, and I discover I can now cross realms to kill, that a profound sea cultivator is no longer safe from me. Everything is going beautifully, which in my experience is the universe clearing its throat before it hands you a problem. The problem arrives wearing an old man's grief. My grand elder brings me Qin Haiming, the head of a Zhang branch out in Xuan City, and Qin Haiming brings me a heartbreak with a grandson's face. The boy is Su Shi. He was a genius once, betrothed young to a girl named Mu Qing'er, and then 3 years ago, his body simply stopped holding qi. Every scrap of cultivation he poured in vanished into him like water into sand, and a genius became a mortal overnight. His father went looking for a cure and never came back, and Mu Qing'er, the betrothed, has spent those 3 years climbing into the good graces of the Thousand Mountains sect, getting cozy with one Wu Tian, the sect master's son, a young man whose defining traits are cruelty and a long memory for insults. And now she is coming to Xuan City to break the engagement in person, with Wu Tian on her arm, to grind her boot into the family that raised her intended while he was still worth marrying. I turn the eye on the boy's story, and I feel the shape of the thing before I've even confirmed it. Another crippled genius. Another one who fell impossibly far from an impossible height. My clan is producing these like a mint. And there's something else, a whisper the eye catches at the edge of him, something old sleeping in a ring on his hand, but I file that and answer his grandfather first, because there is a much more urgent question, which is whether a boy stops holding qi by accident. I don't think anything about this family is an accident anymore. I agree to come at once. And I promise the Xuan City branch what I'm going to promise all of them. Come home to Wudan, come under the family proper. Total clan power doesn't care about the line between main house and branch. Every Zhang I gather is a Zhang I carry, and every Zhang I carry makes me heavier, and I intend to become the heaviest thing this world has ever tried to lift. I bring Xuan Yuan with me. He's been hoarding the profound rank sword I gave him, practicing basic forms with feather-light power like he's afraid the blade will judge him, and I tell him the truth a young swordsman needs to hear, which is that he'll break long before the blade does, so he might as well use it. On the road, I tell him about his cousin Su Shi, another broken genius, and when he hears who the divorcing couple is, the grudges light up all at once, old and new stacked together, because Wu Tian is of the very sect that expelled him, and the whole rotten arrangement suddenly has one face on it. We arrive at the Xuan City branch to a carriage and a performance. Wu Tian has come to gloat, and he does it with theater, strutting in with Mu Qing'er's hand in his to make the shame as public as possible. A purple mansion driver named Xiao Lei idling by the carriage in case the peasants need discouraging. And here is where the day turns, because the crippled boy they came to humiliate does not play his part. Su Shi walks up to the girl he was promised to, and before Wu Tian can deliver whatever cruel line he's rehearsed, Su tears the marriage contract in half in her face and says the 4 words that rearrange the whole scene. I'm divorcing you. Wu Tian does not handle this with grace. He kicks the elder who tries to calm things, threatens to slaughter the branch to the last child, and that is roughly the moment we walk in. Xiao Lei sizes us up and does the thing arrogant purple mansions always do. He probes. He demands a name. He calls himself a guest elder of the Thousand Mountains sect like it's a spell that ought to make me kneel. I give him the name. Jiang family. Lin Chang'an. It means nothing to him yet. It's going to mean something to a lot of people very soon. Wu Tian recognizes Yuan, sneers at the waste who got thrown off a mountain, and Yuan answers him the way I taught him, which is with his fist, a punch Wu Tian cannot dodge and does not survive with his dignity, followed by a scabbard slap that sends him cartwheeling across the yard. Xiao Lei sees his young master airborne and decides to kill everyone in the courtyard to fix it. He gets 1 step. I flash the bearing shadow sword once, the blade that isn't there, and open his throat, a second layer purple mansion dead before the crowd understands a sword was drawn. The branch erupts. I look at my nephew and give him the day's lesson. Yuan air, his 4 limbs. Yuan obliges. 4 kicks, 1 per limb, and he says something to himself with each that I can't hear but can guess, because a boy keeps a ledger and every kick is a payment the sect owes. Wu Tian screams on the ground with nothing left to walk on, and the branch stares between joy and dread because they know what a sect master does when you cripple his son, and Mu Qing'er folds into a heap of terror, understanding too late that she picked the wrong man to betray. Then I read Su Shi properly, and the sleeping thing in his ring resolves into the outline of a monster. A remnant soul, a real one, something that was once a celestial human before its body died, tucked into that ring and stirring toward waking. His fortune reads gold. His luck reads gold. And the investment menu the system lays out for him has words on it like divine liquid and a heaven-rank blood garment and a heaven-rank strange fire. Options you do not get for a mortal boy from a branch family. But I don't cash any of them yet, because there's a thing that matters more than a payout, and it's this. The boy needs to close his own wound. So I hand Su Shi a sword and tell him to settle his own account. And he does. He walks up to the crippled Wu Tian and runs the blade through his heart, clean, no speech, and the sect's young master stops being a problem. Mu Qing'er tries one last performance, all tears. Wu Tian forced me. Marry me tomorrow. I've always loved you. And then, mid-sob, she lunges to take Su Shi hostage because that's the kind of love it was. I flick a thread of pure yang and blow her reaching hand to red mist, and Su Shi, without being told twice, runs her through as well. Both of them down in the dirt of the courtyard they came to lord over. It's a tidy afternoon. The system pays out in fortune, and better, in a boy who chose to stand up. Family luck ticks up off Su's clarity and off the branch surviving a thing that should have ended it. I load Su Shi the way I loaded Yuan, marrow cleansing pill, pure yang skill, great sun body refining art, and the register answers with the kind of numbers that make an old cultivator weep. 10 jin of divine liquid, which is elite blood the currency families kill for, 1 jin worth 1,000 high-grade stones, a heaven-rank martial Dao blood garment, a cloak of living skin that heals its wearer and can eat a strike meant to kill a saint, and a heaven-rank strange fire, an azure flame that I hand to a boy who, it's dawning on me, was born to burn things beautifully. Xuanyuan takes suicide and gives him the same medicine I once gave Yuan, the broken then standing speech, one crippled genius passing the torch to another, and something reignites in Su too, and the fortune climbs again, because it turns out the most renewable resource in my whole family is one cousin refusing to let another one quit. The branch comes home to Wudan, 100-year homesickness paid off in an afternoon, and I ride back to a base that's suddenly too small for what I'm building, already thinking about a mountain. The old Zhang compound is a shoe that no longer fits. So I go shopping for a mountain, and I find Kangwu, a range of dozens of peaks, defensible, thick with qi, ringed by beasts vicious enough to keep tourists honest, some of them profound sea monsters. The system, which has apparently decided I'm playing a base building game now, drops a panel that would embarrass a city planner. Bind the mountain and receive spirit veins, a medicine field, a mountain protecting formation that suppresses any intruder below Starwheel by a full realm, a spirit spring, seeds for something called dragon tooth rice, and a building pack. I bind it. I intend to raise a home here that outlives me by 10,000 years, and I want the walls to know it. But before Kangwu, before any of it, the ring on Su Shi's hand finally wakes up, and I get handed the best comedy of my second life. The remnant soul unfolds into an old man, indignant and grand, introducing himself as Elder Xuan, and his story is a tragedy with a punchline he hasn't noticed yet. He was a celestial human, a genuine one, many realms above anything in this backwater. His most trusted disciple betrayed him at the worst possible moment during his saint tribulation, the once-in-an-era gamble to ascend, and Xuan lost his body and everything with it, and what survived crawled into this ring and went to sleep. And for 3 years, it's been quietly eating Sushi's chi to stay alive. That, it turns out, is why the boy stopped holding cultivation. His crippling wasn't sabotage or fate. It was a house guest. Xuan takes Su as a disciple on the spot, on one condition sealed for later. When the boy is strong, he helps Xuan find the traitor and burn that sect to the ground. Fine. Everyone in my family seems to come with a revenge attached. I've started thinking of it as a subscription. Then old Xuan, a celestial human, tries to be generous to his new disciple, and the comedy begins because he keeps reaching into his memory for a treasure to bestow and keeps pulling out something my boy already has, and better. He proudly offers the great derivation profound technique, earth grade, medium quality, a genuine legacy from the heights. Su already holds an earth top art I handed him last week. Xuan clears his throat and offers the Yuan fire body forging method, earth medium. Su is already running the earth top great sun. Twice, 3 times, a celestial human offers his crown jewels and watches a branch family reject politely decline. I already have that one, master, Su keeps saying, gently, so as not to hurt the old man's feelings. The chief gave me a better version last week. And I watch old Xuan's voice climb an octave inside the ring with each one, from grand to strained to genuinely wounded, the slow dawning horror of an ancient master discovering he has somehow ended up the poor relation at his own disciple's table. He goes quiet, then he says, to no one in a small voice, hold on, who is the celestial human here? He starts, out loud, to work through theories, and lands on the only one that survives contact with the evidence, which is that Su Shi must secretly be my bastard son, because there is no other reason a border reject would be sitting on better legacies than a man who traversed the heavens. He finally salvages his dignity with the one thing he's got that I don't, a technique called flame art, which starts as a humble yellow-grade art and has the singular virtue of climbing without a ceiling every time it devours a heavenly flame. It's the seed of something, and I respect a seed. Su cultivates, and for the first time in 3 years the chi stays, and he breaks into Hutian in a night, and old Xuan gets to feel useful again, which is all any of us really want. Old Xuan's curiosity, though, is a problem for old Xuan. He can't help probing the family that keeps outclassing him. He soul touches Zhuan Yuan gently, an old master idly reading a junior, and recoils like he's grabbed a live wire, because under the pleasant surface of a polite young swordsman there is a terror aura that reads above the saint realm, the karma of that emperor fire, and it very nearly annihilates what's left of him. He crawls back into the ring and warns Su, in the low voice you use for real fear, to be careful around his cousin Yuan. And then, being an old man who cannot leave a bruise unpoked, he probes me. I let him. I'm curious what a celestial human makes of what I'm becoming. He touches the edge of the sacred body's Tao rhyme, and something older underneath it, a human-headed serpent-coiled thing from the Nuwa diagram, and I feel him fold in on himself in the ring like a woodlouse, and I hear him arrive, all on his own, at the most flattering wrong conclusion available, that Lin Chang'an is a reincarnated ancient great emperor slumming it in a border prefecture. He is instantly, completely, gloriously converted. He stops calling Su by his name and starts calling him young lord. He begins coaching the boy, in urgent whispers, on the fine art of holding the chief's thigh and never, ever letting go, on the grounds that a family whose pigs could probably reach Starwheel is a family you attach yourself to like a barnacle and ride to heaven. I do not correct him. A useful delusion is a terrible thing to waste. I do, however, hand Su Shi a storage ring with a gin of divine liquid, the azure flame, and a stalk of top-grade soul-calming grass tucked in among the gifts, and I watch old Xuan realize, when Su opens it, that the soul-calming grass is the one thing in that ring a wounded remnant soul needs more than anything, that it was never for the boy, it was for him, that I saw through him from the first breath. The old fraud goes very quiet. Then he gets even more devoted, because there's nothing a schemer respects like being read cover to cover by someone who then chooses to be kind anyway. The investment on that gift comes back at a scale that makes even me pause. 1,000 jin of divine liquid, 3 earth-top treasures, and a strange fire called Samadhi True Fire, the kind of flame that at major achievement can burn a realm down to nothing. I fold it all into my foundation. Su refines the heaven-rank azure flame into his flame art, and the whole art leaps from a beggar's yellow grade to heaven medium in one meal, his body reforging itself into an azure flame treasure body, and the boy who couldn't hold ki a month ago is now a walking furnace. Yuan and Su, side by side, become a thing the region starts calling the Twin Stars, teenagers who crush every visiting genius sent to test them, and off their glory, I earn a title of my own, the Zhang Sword Sect, because a man with sword intent at Purple Mansion is, technically, a Sword Dao Grandmaster, even if he mostly uses it to be tidy. I put on the blood garment, that living cloak of skin that drinks chi around the clock whether I'm awake or not, and I break through to profound sea. The whole family feels the storm come off the mountain and cheers, and the Twin Stars, humbled to find the gap between themselves and the old man, has somehow widened. Go grind harder, which is exactly what I wanted them to feel. Then I clear Kongwu with my own hands, killing off every beast above the Purple Mansion line and leaving the weaker ones alive as sparring partners for the children, and I unpack the building gift like a man laying out a model city, halls, and an alchemy pavilion, and an artifact pavilion, and a scripture hall, and an arena, spirit spring set, medicine fields planted, dragon tooth rice going into the ground. I move the whole family up the mountain, and we stop being the Zhang of Wudan and become the Kongwu Zhang, and I leave a handful of the most stubborn old ones behind in the ancestral home because some roots you don't yank, you transplant gently. I've got a mountain, 2 destiny children, a converted celestial human running my new disciples' public relations, and a base that grows spirit rice. And somewhere out past the edge of my little empire, a peak-tier swordsman I've never met is deciding I need to be taught a lesson, and a moonwheel ancestor is deciding a grave needs visiting, and a real sect is about to send a scout to buy my children out from under me. They all think they're the ones about to teach the lesson. That's the funny part. That's always the funny part. The scout comes first, because scouts always come first. Yuan Kai, who has sworn off me forever, gets a visit from an old friend named Fan Fei, a deacon of the Azure Mountain sect, a real sect with a moonwheel ancestor, freshly minted into the 9th layer of Purple Mansion, and insufferable about it. Fan Fei is talent shopping. In 3 months, there's a 100 sects grand competition, and the top 10 go to the Heavenly Capital Academy, and the top 3 go all the way to the Royal Capital, and a scout who delivers a couple of monsters like my twin stars gets to retire on the glory. Ding warns him that the Kangwu Jiang chief is, and I quote the word that's apparently attached itself to me now, inscrutable. Fan Fei hears border family and stops listening, so he comes up my mountain expecting to be begged at. He's condescending in the particular way of a man who has spent his whole life being condescended to and is thrilled to finally be on the giving end of it. He offers grandly to make Yuan and Su true disciples of the Azure Mountain sect, and he presents this as an act of enormous charity. 2 peasants lifted out of the mud and into the light, and he waits for the gratitude. He tells us how fortunate we are. He tells us the doors this opens. He goes on, and I let him, all the way to the end, because there's a specific pleasure in letting a man finish a speech he's going to regret. Then I tell him, pleasantly, the way you decline a second cup of tea. I have no interest in your Azure Mountain sect. He doesn't believe me. He can't. In his world, no border family declines a real sect, so he goes over my head and asks the boys directly, certain they'll leap. And my twin stars, who have a mountain that grows spirit rice, and a patriarch who hands out heaven-rank arts like bread in each other, decline him 3 times, politely. Old Xuan, watching from the ring, reads the man's body the way he reads everyone's, and murmurs to Su that Fan Fei is carrying hidden injuries stacked up like unpaid bills, that his own profound sea breakthrough will kill him the day he's fool enough to try it, a short-lived ghost swaggering around pretending he's got centuries, and when charm fails, Fan Fei decides to simply take what he wants and moves on the boys, and I put 1 thread of sword intent and 1 open palm between him and them, and he finds himself disarmed and airborne before he's finished the thought. I make him slap himself 30 times before I let him flee. Yuan Kai, who came along to spectate and stayed to grovel, slaps himself 90, loses 2 teeth doing it, and swears on everything he owns never to set foot on my slope again. I already told him once, 3 strikes, and you're out. But Fan Fei's visit reminds the system of an old debt, and it lights up a family mission I've been saving in the back of my chest since the day I caught a dying boy in the street. Annihilate the Thousand Mountains sect. The rewards attached are obscene, flying beasts and crystals and hundreds of treasures, but I'd do this one for free. Because months ago, in front of witnesses, I made a promise to Xuan Yuan. I will go to that sect, and I will get you your justice. And I have learned, in 2 lifetimes, that a promise spoken out loud and left unpaid is a rot that gets into everything, so I invite the twin stars on a little field trip and I tell them we're going to collect. The Thousand Mountains sect gate is manned by disciples who take 1 look at Xuan Yuan and start laughing. The expelled waste, one of them calls, crawled all the way home just to die at our door. Come to beg for your Dantian back, cripple. And I watch my nephew's face while they do it, and I see the thing I need to see, which is that he isn't afraid, he's just deciding. Repay it, I tell him, 2-fold. And I watch Xuan Yuan take the first real step across a line that has no road back. He severs the loudest one's leg first, and while the man is still falling, he takes his head, and it's clean, and it's fast, and it's the first man my nephew has ever killed. And then I watch the thing that tells me who he's going to be, because the moment the body drops, Yuan goes gray, and turns, and is quietly, thoroughly sick against the gatepost. A boy who feels nothing the first time is a boy who was already broken before he started. A boy who feels too much won't survive the trade and shouldn't. And Yuan lands in the only place that works, sick to his stomach and steady on his feet, wiping his mouth and turning back to the rest of them with his blade still up. Su, already blooded once, is simply delighted to be here. I put my hand on my nephew's shoulder and give him the ugliest true thing I know, the one I'd spare him if I could and can't. With enemies, you abandon kindness, not because you're cruel, because kindness spent on the men who came to erase your family is just a slower, more expensive way of helping them finish the job. He nods. He's still green. He never stops being a little green, that boy, and that's exactly why I'll trust him with anything. The sect responds the way sects do, in ascending order of importance. First, an enraged elder, 9th layer purple mansion, stabs a profound grade sword at Yuan, and I catch the blade bare-handed, skin unbroken, and shatter it, and put a fist through the man who forged his whole life around that sword. Then the sect master himself, Zhao Mingxuan, a profound C, and 5 purple mansion elders decide to rush me all at once, which is the correct tactical read and the wrong opponent. I unfold 10,000 swords returned to origin at perfection, and for 3 breaths the air above the sect is nothing but blades, and when it settles, the sect master and all 5 elders are memories. I note clinically that I've got maybe 100 more uses of that art before my Yuan C runs dry, which is the kind of thing you keep track of when you're building instead of just winning. The survivors kneel. They always kneel. Kneeling is the last skill a doomed man keeps. I sort them the way you sort anything you don't want to waste. The ones tied to the sect's leadership I have the beggars point out, and those I keep for the twin stars to practice on, beat my children and live, and offer none of them can cash. The unconnected ones I give 10 breaths to run, because a family that murders indiscriminately breeds 100 new grudges, and a family that's precise breeds fear, and fear is cheaper. The twin stars do their homework on the 20 who remain. The Thousand Mountain sect, the mountain that broke my nephew and threw him off a cliff, stops existing before dinner, and the promise I made in a Wudan street gets stamped paid in the only ink that ever settles these things. The mission pays like a burst dam. Flying spirit beasts, a sword Dao crystal, 200 top profound treasures, 10 earth top techniques, and a heaven top art. The pure yang limitless skill, an advanced form of the pure yang I've been seeding through the whole clan, which I master on the way down the mountain and which carries me from the first layer of profound sea to the 4th. The field exercise bonus for shepherding the twin stars through a live war grades out at the top and pays 2 things I don't fully understand yet and immediately love. One is the Kunpeng treasure. Technique, a speed and escape art that will let me be somewhere else before a problem finishes forming. The other is a seed. A level 1 primordial chaos. Ancient tree, a divine tree that hides itself in the void and feeds on my family's accumulated luck and, in return, quietly pries open the comprehension of everyone who carries the Zhang blood. A tree that makes my whole family smarter, powered by my whole family's good fortune, growing in a place no enemy can reach. I plant it at the summit and it vanishes into nothing, and I feel the entire clan get a half-step cleverer overnight, and not one of them knows why. We ride home on 3 red-eyed eagles, purple mansion spirit beasts, the twin stars grinning like idiots at the realization that our pets outrank most people's elders, and the family throws the kind of party you throw when the sect that terrorized your golden child is confirmed dead. I give 1 order into the celebration, recall every Zhang branch, everywhere, home to Kongwu, every scattered cousin, every forgotten line, all of it, come home. I'm not being sentimental. Well, not only, every one of them is weight, and I have decided to become unliftable. The mountain changes under me while I'm busy. I bury the last of the spirit veins, and Kangwu stops being a mountain with good air and becomes a spirit mountain, chi thick enough to see, hanging in the valleys like the whole range is exhaling. My grand elder realizes, with the specific awe of a man who spent decades studying chi, that I didn't find this place. I edited it. I set the binding spirit formation, whitelist the family blood, and now anyone who climbs my slope uninvited and isn't already Starwheel gets shoved a full realm down the ladder just for trespassing. The chaos tree hides at the summit, sipping our luck. Word of the vanished sect spreads. The fallen maple sect that once broke UN decides the smart move is to befriend us before we remember they exist, and a market of hopeful sects and families springs up at the foot of my mountain like mushrooms after rain, all of them blocked by my closure order and none of them willing to leave. Then a one-armed man walks up out of that crowd carrying a black sword and an attitude, and I get to meet the best hire I ever make. His name is Sui Jian, a wandering swordsman, 9th layer profound C, and he owns a real sword intent, which is rarer than gold and worth more. Years ago, he beat Zhao Mingxuan, the sect master I recently turned into weather, so he's not nobody, and he hasn't come for gifts or alliance. He's come for a duel, one sword against one sword, because that's the only currency a man like this trades in. I go down to meet him on the Kunpeng speed, and I have to respect the thrust he opens with, a killing strike with no theater in it. I don't parry it. I'm faster than it, which is a different thing. I sidestep, snap off a tree branch on the way past, and put pure yang into it and send a profound sea swordsman tumbling with a stick. He gets up off the ground with a stick's worth of bruises and does the thing that decides his whole future without knowing it. Brute force, he sneers, spitting dirt. You don't understand the sword at all. And I feel a very specific itch in my chest, one I remember from my old life, the itch of a proud man being told he's a fraud at the one thing he's actually good at. So I don't argue. One sword, I tell him. Watch. And I show him Guiyuan's swordplay, one of the earth-top arts I've been quietly sitting on, carried on a perfected sword intent, and I take the same broken branch and whittle its tip to a needle in the air and rest it against the side of his throat before he's finished deciding which way to dodge. He goes completely still. The sneer slides off his face and doesn't come back. Because a man who has spent his entire life alone with a blade recognizes, in one stroke, a hand that has walked further down his own road than he will ever reach, and it does something complicated to him. That recognition, half grief for the ceiling he'll never break, and half the first warmth he's felt in decades. I make the offer with the needle still at his throat because that's the only honest moment for it. That sword move, I tell him, and a place. 3 years as a guest elder of the Kangwu Jiang, and you teach my children. His own manual, I already know from the eye, is earth-low and incomplete. A fragment, which is the exact reason a talent like his stalled decades ago at a wall he could feel and never climb. I'm not offering him a job. I'm offering him the missing rung of his own life. He stands there, a lone wolf down to the marrow, and I watch it cost him. This idea of belonging to something after a lifetime of belonging to nothing. And then he says yes. Quietly, like a man setting down a weight. And the instant he walks through my binding formation and Kangwu's qi hits his lungs, I watch a homeless swordsman realize he's just come home to a place he didn't know he'd been missing. Shui Jian becomes the sword teacher of the Kangwu Jiang, and I'll tell you plainly, half the reason my next generation turns out the way it does is that one bitter, one-armed man decided, on my mountain, to stop being alone. The system, in a generous mood, lets me crack 2 treasure blind boxes. One coughs up a profound heaven golden pill, heaven top, useful only to a mortal grade physique, which is a very specific gift for a very specific boy, so I pocket it for Yuan. The other hands me an azure cloud white crane, a star wheel mount with sacred beast blood, which makes it, the instant it hatches, the single strongest living thing on my mountain, a fact I choose to enjoy by riding it everywhere and watching the crowd at the foot of the slope lose their minds when they see the reclusive Jiang chief sail overhead on a star wheel bird like it's a donkey. That does more for the family's reputation than any massacre. The recalled branches keep trickling in, each one a small variation on the same story, a Jiang line ground down by whichever local bully found them first, rescued by a cousin who arrived with a face slap and a homecoming. Out in Kwantong City, it's a Black Tiger sect thug named Fang Li, a status-drunk bully leaning on the branch for the pleasure of it, right up until he grabs the branch head and Sushi puts an azure flame fist through his ribs and a blade through his brow. I could tell you the details of every branch rescue, but they'd start to sound the same, which is itself the point. My family is everywhere, and everywhere it's been prey, and I am systematically converting prey into predators one cousin at a time. But at the Gao family, the recall turns up something that isn't a variation, it turns up my 4th. His name is Long Fan. He's the son of a dead Jiang genius and a Gao daughter, a boy who refused to take the Gao surname when they offered it and got treated like a servant for the crime of loyalty, whose mother wore herself to death in a house that despised her. 3 days before we find him, a legacy fell into his hands, the Yellow Springs Demon Diagram, the inheritance of an ancient Yellow Springs great emperor, and it gave him an art that devours, a way to eat an enemy's essence and grow on it. And overnight the servant boy climbed to the 9th layer of bone forging and started planning to erase the Black Tiger sect that spent years humiliating his family. Old Xuan probes him, cautious now, and hits the same above Saint Terror karma he found in Yuan, and he says the thing he's been circling for a while, the theory he can no longer avoid, that this Jiang bloodline isn't a lucky border family, it's a fallen emperor clan, and the emperors are waking up one at a time inside it. The system agrees, in its way. It ranks Long Fan a color I haven't seen before. Not the gold of the twin stars. Red. A boy who eats the dead to grow, born angry, ranked above my 2 brightest stars, walking around in a servant's clothes waiting for someone to finally treat him like family. I already know how this ends. A boy who's been made to feel like a stray his whole life, handed a power built on hunger and grief, is going to become something the daylight world can't stomach. He's going to need a place to put all of that where it makes him useful instead of monstrous, and a hand at his back that never once flinches from what he is. I've got a mountain full of light. He's going to be the part of my family that lives in the dark, and I am going to love him for it exactly as hard, because that's the whole job. I have him brought home. 4 emperors, and I've only started counting. The Gao family, who spent years treating Long Fan like a stray, turn on a coin the instant they learn the stray is bloodkin to the Kangwu Jiang, all fawning and gift pills, and suddenly it's brother fan this and brother fan that. I let the boys see it happen. It's a useful education, watching the exact price at which contempt converts to worship, and the number is always the same: fear. Then a familiar name walks up my mountain carrying presents: Ma Chao, master of the fallen maple sect. The very sect that broke Xuanyuan and threw him off a cliff, come to buy my friendship with a smile and a bribe, apparently under the impression I've forgotten. My gate disciple recognizes him, pockets the bribe, and reports him, which is exactly the culture I've been cultivating. I'm deep in cultivation and can't be bothered, so I send Shui Jian to fetch him, and Shui, who has recently discovered the joy of being the sharpest sword on a mountain full of sharp swords, is delighted to oblige. He confronts Ma Chao, finds a third layer profound sea with no sword intent and no real foundation, a fraud propped up entirely on resources, forces a duel, disarms him, beats him, and informs him he's a Zhang enshrinement now, all before Ma Chao fully understands the day has gone wrong. And when Shui carries him up through the binding formation, the mountain does its work and shoves the fraud a full realm down to the 3rd layer of Purple Mansion, and Ma Chao, feeling his own strength drain out of him just from crossing my property line, finally starts to grasp the scale of what he came to bribe. The family cheers when the man who ordered Yuan's crippling gets dragged into the hall. I take my time with him because some accounts you settle slowly. You shattered my nephew's Dantian, I tell him, so I'm going to destroy every Dantian in your sect, starting with yours. I cripple him down to a mortal, and I make him a slave tending my medicine fields, and I send Zhui to erase the fallen maple sect, and, specifically, to find the individual hand that did the deed. Shui shatters their sect plaque with a single stroke of Guiwan's swordplay, cripples their 6 Purple Mansion elders, and puts the question to the survivors, and 3 disciples give up the name Zhang Bo, the man who broke Yuan's core and pitched him off a mountain to die. Zhang Bo, seeing his own ending arrive, drags the 3 informers down with him out of pure spite, which saves everyone the trouble of a trial. Shui cripples the lot of them, gives the rest an incense stick's mercy to run, and brings the leadership home in chains. The last hand that touched Zhuan Yuan closes into a fist and then stops closing forever. A whole region raises a glass and marvels at the Kangwu Jiang killing a chicken to scare a very large number of monkeys, which is a rude way to describe buying prestige at wholesale, and also completely accurate. But the arrival that matters that week is a quiet one. Susi brings his branch and Long Fan with it, up my mountain and home. I'm at the 8th layer of Profound Sea by now. A month or so from Star Wheel, my sword intent firming towards Sword Heart, and when the system flags Long Fan's investment rank as red, above both my gold-touched twin stars, I read his panel carefully, the yellow springs devouring art, the red luck, the anger banked in him like coals, and I make a decision about how to raise a boy who eats the dead. I don't name his secret out loud, not even to him. I just fold a piece of advice into the elder warmth, casual, the kind of thing an uncle says: finish your enemies completely and leave nothing of them behind so that the way you fight stays your own business. He hears it as care. It is care. It's also the first lesson in becoming a blade that can be pointed at the things a family of the light can't be seen touching. I give him a ring, profound heaven golden pill, great sun body refining, purple thunder palm, a gin of divine liquid, and my own guidance imprinted alongside it. And I watch a boy who was made to feel like a guest his whole life get treated, for the first time, like he was always going to be family. It moves him more than the treasures do. It's supposed to. The investment on that boy comes back like a war chest. A sword saint power, a single strike capable of wounding an actual saint. The kind of trump you hope to die of old age never needing. A thunder spirit body, which I fold into my grand elder, because a man who held this family together on spite for 6 years deserves to finally have a body worthy of him, and he weeps when it takes. An innate sword body, I file away for whichever sword fanatic the family produces next, because I've learned to save the perfect gift for the person who hasn't arrived yet. And a great destruction art, a top demonic path-killing technique, which I set aside as well, because I have a growing sense of exactly which of my children is going to need permission to end things on that scale. The arsenal balloons past anything a border family should hold, and I go back to cultivating, because I've noticed the family growing fastest is the one whose patriarch keeps climbing, and total clan power means the two are the same lever. Long Fan opens his ring alone that night and reels at it, earth-top arts and divine liquid and golden crow chi, and at the bottom, a profound heaven golden pill that flings open 100 acupoints and multiplies his absorption 100-fold and carries a servant boy to the first layer of Hutian in one swallow. He vows into the dark to feed his cultivation on the black tiger sect that made his mother's life a misery and to become strong enough that no one ever again gets to decide whether he counts as family. He's going to get his wish. All of them. Every single one of my broken children is going to get their wish, and the getting of it is going to remake the map. But first, I have to reorganize a family that's outgrown its own shape, and I have to deal with the old patient monster who's finally coming to visit a grave in Wudan City because the Tiandu Li have decided it's time to remember us. I gather the whole family into one hall and rebuild it from the frame out. I put in a contribution point system so that effort has a currency and nobody has to grovel for what they've earned. I renovate the pavilions, scripture and treasure and alchemy, add a task platform and an arena, expand the market, and then I do the thing that matters most and costs me nothing. I abolish the line between the main house and the branches. There is no main house. There are no branches. There are 7 veins, 7 great limbs of one body, and I name them Tianshu for Yuan, Tianshuan for Su, Tianji for Fan, and 4 more, and I set an elder council over them with my grand elder, Qin Guang, at its head, and I put a bounty on every newborn, because a family that pays you to have children is a family that intends to be here in 10,000 years. 100 cousins who arrived as beaten strays walk out of that hall as citizens of something. The family development mission grades top marks and pays a fortune, plus a saint rank sword art, a saint rank convergence array, a heaven rank vein, a guardian dragon, and a mystery bone. I use the bone that night and it rearranges the ceiling of what I am. It's a supreme bone, and fusing it hands me reincarnation, and I don't mean rebirth. I mean the technique, the power to reach out and pour time onto an enemy until a monster is a wailing infant clutching at nothing. Time, in my palm. I break through to the first layer of Starwheel on the back of it, an immortal master now by the courtesy of the world, and my chaotic Dao Eye opens its second stage into eyes of insight that read a formation or a sword form the way you read a child's handwriting. I bury the convergence array and it drops a veil over Kangwu so total that anyone below Great Saint simply cannot perceive the chi we're sitting on, which means I can throw storms of breakthroughs up here and the outside world sees a quiet border mountain. Old Xuan, watching a spirit vein go in that outclasses the ones in actual Holy Lands, gives up trying to be impressed and just accepts permanently that he ended up in the strangest lucky place in the world. I tuck a secret into the spirit spring too, a dragon. Bailing, a guardian for the family, coiled at the bottom of the water where nobody thinks to look, and I want you to hold on to Bailing because Bailing is going to become one of the great comedies of my life. For now, he's a promise sleeping in a pond. 2 months pass the way they do, when a family finally has room to grow. Grand Elder Guang reaches profound sea on his new thunder body. Shujin climbs to Starwheel and becomes the second strongest thing on my mountain. Su starts dabbling in alchemy and finds he's frighteningly good at it. Yuan and Fan keep climbing, Fan low and quiet the way I taught him, and I ride the whole tide up to the 6th layer of Starwheel and cross into Swordheart, a sword marquise, while the Chaos Tree buds up to its 2nd level and makes my entire family a little more brilliant in their sleep. It is, I want to stress, an absurd 2 months. It only feels normal because I'm the one living it. Out past all of that, a thread I'd half forgotten pulls tight. Sushi's father, Wang Feng, the man who walked off years ago to cure his son and vanished, is still out there in a far prefecture, dragging 2 more boys with him, a blind one named Ye Kai and a small orphan named Li Hao, sons of a dead cousin, Kai having lost his eyes shielding Hao from the thing that killed their father. Feng's luck was garbage for years, right up until, 3 months ago, it wasn't, until it flipped so hard, he stumbled into the tomb of a Sunwheel Blade Marquis and walked out with Earthtop arts and a profound sea foundation, and I know exactly what flipped his luck because I can feel the shape of it. My Chaos Tree. Drinking my family's fortune and quietly pushing every drop of it back out to every Zhang alive, no matter how far, is reaching across a continent to bless a wandering man I've never met because he shares the blood. The family luck found him in the dark and started dealing him better cards. He's turning for home now, chasing a grass that might cure a son who's already cured, carrying 2 more broken children who are going to turn out to be exactly the kind of monster my family specializes in, and he doesn't know any of it. He just knows his luck came back. It came back because I planted a tree, and into the middle of all this good fortune, the old grudge finally stirs. The Tiandu Li, the real Li, the ones with a moonwheel ancestor, learn that their cast-off Wudong branch was scrubbed off the map 3 months ago by a border family, and they don't take it well. Their old ancestor, Wei Qing, is turning 300 and has decided he wants to visit a certain woman's grave in Wudong, the grave at the bottom of the old scandal that made the Wudong Li exiles in the first place, and now there's no Wudong Li to receive him and a nobody family sitting on the ashes. When their scouts hear the name Lin Chang'an and the name Shui Jian in the same breath, they run home to report, and the Li clan chief, a star wheel named Shu Zhan, stalls his ancient ancestor and sends a killer down the mountain to handle it quietly first, a man called Wei Hong, star wheel, a real saber intent on him, with orders to erase the Kangwu Jiang and bring me back alive. Yuan Kai, sworn off me forever, comes sprinting up my slope anyway to warn me, because a coward with a conscience is still a man with a conscience, and he's so rattled he doesn't even notice at first that my gate guards are all Hutian now, and then he does notice, and then my grand elder casually mentions he's reached profound sea in under 3 months, and Ding nearly falls off the mountain. He kneels to me, a star wheel now, and gasps out that a Tiandu Li killer is coming. I thank him for the warning, and then I tell him to do the one thing that will actually help, send them straight up. A fine stepping stone should be delivered to the foot of the stair, but before the Li killer arrives, another man comes to take something of mine, and I learn how much I hate that. His name is Luo Bing, master of the Great River Sword Palace, a moon-wheel sword marquis, and years ago he offered Shui Jian a place and got turned down, and it has apparently festered in him ever since because he shows up at my mountain to reclaim the swordsman like a debt. He brings 2 adopted children, Luo Yun and Luo Zheng, purple mansions both, and my binding formation greets all 3 the way it greets everyone, by dropping his profound sea eagle out of the sky and shoving his kids down to Xiantian before they've finished landing. Zui, who is loyal to me and even more loyal to protecting my family, offers to leave with Luo rather than let a moonwheel start a fight on my slope. He's willing to walk away to keep us safe. I answer him from the top of the mountain, and I keep it short because it's the whole thesis of my life. No one takes my family. The Luo children make it easy by insulting me, which triggers a duel, and I lift the formation suppression off them first, because I want it fair, because a face slap doesn't land if the hand was tied. Su palm blasts Luo Zheng across the arena without even reaching for his azure fire. Yuan takes Luo Yun, gives him 3 strikes to make a mark, slips the boy's earth-high Great River sword technique like it's a child waving a stick, and then Guiwan's swordplay carried on a great sun body sends Luo Yun a few hundred meters into a rock, 1 strike. The Moonwheel father watches his prized heirs get erased by teenagers and does the thing that men like him always do when their pride cracks. He decides to kill everyone, and Shui Jian steps in front of my family. He's not strong enough. He knows he's not strong enough. He does it anyway, one-armed, planting himself between a moonwheel sword marquis and the children he teaches, and under the weight of Luo's killing pressure, something in Shui that's been stuck for years finally gives, and he breaks through to perfect sword intent, standing his ground, because that's what perfect sword intent is actually made of, the willingness to die on the line you drew. It's one of the proudest things I've ever watched, and it's also unnecessary, because I'm already there. Luo throws his star and moon phenomenon at me, the vision of a moonwheel master, and I answer it with one of my own, the sacred body's immortal king in 9 heavens, and his sky bows to mine. I catch his great river sword out of the air bare-handed and turn around and hand it to Shui, because a good blade should belong to the man who is willing to die holding a worse one. Then I kick Luo Bing through a mountain peak. And then, because he came here to steal my family, I take my time. I pour reincarnation onto him, time by the bucketful, blast a limb and let it regrow and blast it again, wind him back down the years until the terrible moonwheel sword marquis is a wailing mortal child with a crippled Dantian sitting in the ruins of his own arrogance. You're not qualified, I tell the child, to be a Zhang retainer. I keep him. His 2 heirs I let Fan quietly tidy away, which is to say the boy who eats the dead grows a little on 2 more, all of it kept out of the daylight the way I taught him. And Luo Bing, the child, gets dumped into my medicine fields, where Ma Chao, my other enslaved ex-master, discovers the specific joy of a broken man torturing a more broken one, slapping the former sword marquis around and making him farm, a role reversal so bleak it loops back around to funny. That's when the Tiandu Li's actual killer finally arrives, right on schedule, and gets to feel very stupid. Wei Hong comes up my mountain with a kill squad, a star wheel with a real saber intent and 2 purple mansions, and orders to erase my clan and bring me back alive, and I meet him with Samadhi True Fire and turn the star wheel and both his purple mansions to ash where they stand. I keep 1 innate breathing as a tour guide, and then I decide I'm tired of waiting for the Li to come to me. I send Bai Ling out of the spring to persuade the child Luo to point the way to the Great River Sword Palace, and I climb onto my crane and fly to the seat of the Tiandu Li myself, because the system has just posted a mission it calls The Road to Rise, Part 1, and Part 1 is the whole Li. I arrive to find them mid-wedding, a Bai family marriage feast, and the guests scatter like startled birds when the white-robed man drops out of the sky. I burn the Li clan chief Xu Zhan out of his chair, and I punch their Star Wheel first layer, Li Bawang, out of his life with a single fist. Their young hope is a boy named Xiao Fan, an enemy destiny child with a true dragon battle body who swallowed a great sage dragon pearl to get it, and I kill him too, and I harvest what he was carrying, true dragon blood and a dragon pearl, because I have a dragon of my own napping in a pond who is going to want those very much. The system pays me 2,000 luck and 100 jin of divine liquid for the boy, which tells you exactly how much the world valued him. Then the old man comes home. Wei Qing, 300 years old, 6th layer moonwheel, a thunder spirit body, the ancestor who broke into the star wheel out of grief and murdered his own elder over a woman and a scandal, and has been nursing that wound ever since. He summons a thunder dragon out of the storm above his ruined family and hurls it at me, and I punch straight through it because a sacred body does not particularly respect the difference between a moonwheel's lightning and weather. And then I use the Great Destruction Art, the top demonic path-killing technique I've been holding, and I erase Wei Qing and the last of his estate and the grave he came home to visit, all of it, down into a ravine that will still be there in 1,000 years for people to be afraid of. The oldest, patient monster that hung over my family since the first afternoon is a hole in the ground. Mission complete. 2 great sects, one of them Moonwheel, wiped in an afternoon, and the world hasn't even started to understand what I am. Bai Ling handles the Great River Sword Palace personally, and it's the first time the family gets a good look at what's been living in the pond. He dangles the child Luo off a cliff until the man points the way, terrifies my herb field slaves half to death just by uncoiling, and then flies out and slaps the entire sword palace into rubble with one lazy swipe, the way you'd fold a bad hand of cards. Then he brings home the loot, and the loot is where the day turns from a massacre into a windfall that reorganizes my whole family. There's a Medicine King cauldron, Heaven Top, a divine crucible for a boy who's discovering he loves alchemy. There's a pair of 9 heavens mystic wings, Heaven Top Flight, the kind of escape trump that keeps a wandering child alive. There's an ancient sacred body, the same order of physique I woke up wearing, and this one anybody can fuse, which means I can hand invincibility to a specific nephew like a coat. And at the bottom of the mystery pack, past a Heaven Top Spirit Spring and Field, there's a book, an imperial rank technique called the Boundless Beginning Sutra, the Beginningless, an art that reaches out and reduces power and law themselves back to nothing, an eraser aimed at the universe's own rules, and the system notes dryly that only my sacred body can cultivate it, so I do. I add a switch to my arsenal that turns other people's cheats off, and I pay Bai Ling his wages, the true dragon blood and the dragon pearl I took off Xiao Fan, and I watch my napping pond serpent go still and start to change, the first slow curl of a real true dragon transformation beginning at the bottom of my spring. He's going to come out of that water, something the world doesn't have a rank for. The world, meanwhile, is trying very hard to name me. 2 great sects gone, one of them fronted by a moonwheel, and a white-robed swordsman at the center of both craters, and the only handle anyone can find for me is the white-robed sword marquis, the #1 sword of the Tiandu prefecture, which is flattering, and also several realms short of the truth, which is exactly how I like it. The prefecture lord himself, Hong Wen, a 9th layer moonwheel, and the strongest thing in this whole lower prefecture, takes an interest, starts circulating portraits, starts asking who exactly is killing his neighbors. Yuan Kai grovels remotely, throws money at rebuilding my old ancestral home, and prays I don't remember he exists. I climb to the 8th layer of Starwheel on the tide of it all. I send Longfan out into that noise on purpose. He's a young purple mansion now with a talent the eye has upgraded all the way to genius, and he needs the one thing I can't manufacture on a mountain, which is the experience of surviving. So I give him the 9 heavens mystic wings, and I let my boy who eats the dead go walk the wide world and feed. I'll see what comes back. I always do. Yuan I upgrade quietly, the way I do everything important. I hand him a nameless sword scroll, swap him without fanfare onto the Pure Yang limitless skill and the Heaven Top 10,000 swords homage, and I fold the ancient sacred body into him while he sleeps, set to bloom in 3 days. He wakes those 3 days later, having crossed into sword intent and awakened an invincible physique. And the best part, the part I'll never spoil for him, is that he thinks he did it himself, thinks he earned the golden UNC on his own sweat, and he starts planning how to surprise his uncle with the news. Let him have it. A boy needs to believe some of the miracles were his. Then I give Shui Jian his arm back. He lost the right one young, in a duel over a woman, and he's carried the stump and the grief for it his whole life the way he carries the sword, quietly, like it's just who he is now. And one afternoon I pour reincarnation onto the old wound, win time back over the scar until flesh and bone remember what they were, and a swordsman who's been one-armed for decades watches a right hand grow back onto him out of nothing. He kowtows until his forehead splits open on the stone, and I have to make him stop. I give him the pure yang skill, a wind and thunder sword technique cut for a two-handed man who spent his life fighting with one, and his own great river sword to hold in the hand I returned to him, and Shui Jian, who came to my mountain a bitter lone wolf and got told he understood nothing about the sword, swears an oath to me that I believe down to the ground, because I gave him back the thing he thought the world had taken for good. But there's a sting in that loot pile, and it's a big one. Among the rewards is a human king's sword, a saint-grade blade heavy with kingly law, a deterrent weapon, and the instant it comes fully into the world, its aura goes up like a signal fire, and it doesn't just ripple across my prefecture, it crosses the whole dynasty. Far away, in the capital, the king of Qin and his imperial preceptor both feel a sacred weapon being born, and the order goes out to all 36 prefectures at once. Find it. I've been so busy being a local legend that I forgot there was a bigger board, and I've just knocked over a piece on it loud enough for the king himself to hear. The whole country is now, quietly, looking for a thing that's sitting in my treasury. Somewhere out on the road, Sushi's father wins a bitter fight for a Qingshuan grass to cure a son who's been cured for months, and turns toward home with 2 more broken boys in tow, not knowing the family he's rushing back to has become the thing the emperor is hunting. It's fine. I've decided that when the empire comes looking, I'd rather it find a family too big and too bright to swallow than a quiet little house it can erase in the dark. So I keep building. Loud. On purpose. Out in the world, Fan keeps feeding, a mask on his face and a growing pile of dead sex behind him, and I let the reports come in and say nothing, because he's doing exactly what a hidden blade should, which is get sharper where no one's watching. At home, I find my sword fanatic. Her name is Mei Hua. She's 18, she's only at the first layer of bone forging, which for this family is a genuine embarrassment, and she has the single worst sword talent anyone on the mountain has ever seen. She's also the most stubborn person I've ever met. She's face-blind, can't tell one person from another, navigates the world by the color of their clothes, and she does not care, because the only thing she looks at is the blade. She practices until her hands split, and then she wraps them and practices more, a monk with a sword, and her own father has quietly given up on her. Shui Jian doesn't. Something about the sheer bloody-minded focus of the girl gets under his skin, and the man who once told me I understood nothing about the sword starts spending his evenings coaching a talentless teenager, because he recognizes the one thing that can't be taught. I turn the eye on her and nearly laugh, because of course she is. Under the worst sword talent on the mountain, her aura runs gold, and the line the eye gives me reads reincarnation of an ancient sword immortal with a talent called Sword Heart Clarity, sealed. The greatest sword soul this family will ever hold, wearing the disguise of a girl who can't hold a form, her whole gift locked behind a door she's been throwing herself at for 18 years without knowing it was there. So I go to her by the spring, and I ask her one question, the only question that matters: what is the sword to you? And she doesn't hesitate, doesn't reach for something poetic, just looks at me with those focused, slightly foolish eyes, and says the truest word she has: life. Not a tool, not a path. Life. And I break the seal. I fuse into her the innate sword body I've been holding since the day it came to me, the perfect gift I saved for a person who hadn't arrived yet, and she's arrived. I give her the Sword Dao crystal, the Guyuan, and the pure yang, everything a sword soul needs to remember what it is, and a girl who couldn't get her sword chi to hold for 18 years leaps clean past it into sword intent in an afternoon, the 4th swordmaster this family has produced, and she does it at bone forging, a thing no one in the entire Great Qin has ever managed. Sword intent from a realm that low. Shui Jian goes numb watching it. The family luck climbs, and Hua, who has been the family's disappointment her whole life, stands there holding a blade that finally answers her, and does not gloat, does not weep, just breathes, like a person who's been holding her breath since birth. She's going to be the deadliest thing this family ever makes. She has no idea, that's the best part. I'm not just handing out miracles for the joy of it, though the joy is real. There's a strategy under all of it now, and I let the Elder Council in on the shape of it. I broke the Tiandu Li loudly, and I spared the Bai wedding guests loudly, both on purpose, because fame is a wall. A family famous enough to be feared is a family whose traveling children don't get robbed on the road, whose branches don't get bullied, whose name alone makes a moon wheel think twice. I'm not seeking glory. I'm building an umbrella big enough to cover every Zhang who ever leaves the mountain, and every atrocity that gets told and retold in a tavern is another rib in it. When I break through to the first layer of moon wheel, and my star and moon phenomenon lights the sky, I do it knowing the whole prefecture will feel it, and I count that as the point. I give the family the tools to grow without me hovering over every one of them. A sword stele goes up in the square, a monument holding sword key at the level of a sword king, so that any child can sit at its base and comprehend the sword safely. Mass-produced enlightenment, and old Xuan nearly falls out of his ring when he sees a whole clan free-drinking sword Dao from a rock. A spirit of books goes into the library, a memory lock so that a stolen technique can't be carried out of a thief's own skull, because I've built something worth stealing now, and I intend to keep it. I split the Pure Yang skill into 4-point locked volumes so the family's foundation art spreads by merit instead of leaking out a back door. And I keep half an eye always on the deeper game because Yuan Kai's frantic letters have started arriving, and in them a coward's clever mind has done me an enormous favor. The manhunt for the sacred weapon and the white-robed sword marquis has reached Wudong, and Ding, forced to identify me, does it, but wraps the truth in a beautiful lie, spins a tale of a Zhang chief born with omens and a secret moonwheel inheritance who merely showed the world a purple mansion out of humility. He rewrites Wudong's own history to sell it, silences the scribes, and hands the empire a version of me grand enough to explain the craters and modest enough to seem containable. Hong Wen, chewing on it from his prefecture seat, comes to his own conclusion, one that's both wrong and dangerous, that I carry a kingly body, rarer than any spirit body, the kind of physique the founder of Qin himself was said to have. He starts scheming about how to leash a thing like that instead of kill it. Good. A man who wants to leash you has to get close enough to be reached. Let him come. I send Yuan down to Wudong with pills for Yuan Kai, partly as a reward and partly as a test, and the test is deliciously passed when Ding, groveling at a profound sea nephew he doesn't recognize, weeps over the gift and swears loyalty and regrets to his bones that he didn't defect to me years ago. But the real reason I sent Yuan home is the ancestral hall, because the oldest elders there have been keeping something for a very long time without knowing what it was. They give Yuan an iron box. It was found under the tablet of an ancestor named Hong Xuan. It can't be broken, and it blocks divine sense so completely that no one in generations has been able to see inside it. Yuan brings it to me, and my eyes of insight find the thing the elders couldn't, a talisman seal folded into the metal, and I crush it, and the box opens, and my family's whole story rearranges itself in one breath. Inside there's a token, black and cold and old, a heavenly demon token, and a beast skin scroll, and the scroll tells me who we actually are. The Kangwu Jiang are not a border family that got lucky. We are the last living thread of the heavenly demon sect, a top demonic path power once ruled by a myriad transformations true lord named Jiang Mingsheng, a sect strong enough that the entire righteous path and the court itself had to band together to annihilate it. When it fell, everyone died. Jiang Mingsheng, his heirs, all of it, erased so thoroughly the world files it under ancient history. Everyone except the ninth son, Jiang Zheren, an ordinary talented boy his father loved anyway, who ran with the heavenly demon token in his hand and buried himself in the smallest, poorest city he could find, took the surname and hid the demonic arts, and left his descendants nothing but a locked box and one emergency technique so that the hunters would never smell what we were. That's the blood I've been pouring power into. Not a lucky little house, a dead emperor's exiled line, sleeping under a false name for centuries, waiting for someone to open the box. The one art the ninth son left behind is a burning blood technique, a foundation breaker that trades lifespan for a desperate surge of strength, the very thing that let the ancestor Hongshuan claw to Purple Mansion and then die of it. I file the token and the truth away because I understand now why the emperors keep waking up one at a time inside my children. It was never coincidence. It's a bloodline remembering itself. I tell Yuan a gentler version of it later, and I'll be honest with you about that because it matters. When the time comes to give my children a story to stand on, I do not hand them demonic path and annihilation and a father's severed heads. I hand them something they can carry into a fight without flinching, but that comes later. For now, I know the true shape of the thing, and I know the Empire is hunting a sacred weapon that's ours, and I know that a demon sex ghost does not get to rest just because it's been quiet for 300 years. Something is going to come looking. It always does. The family keeps producing them. Meanwhile, one impossible child after another. A Yuheng boy named Liu Shi turns up with a six-sided stone and a blood-plundering bead and a talent for spears, quietly grinding toward Purple Mansion in the corners where nobody's watching. Another emperor in the making pretending to be an ordinary disciple. Hua takes the innate sword body I gave her and awakens it fully, a 10,000 swords resonance ringing off the whole mountain, and breaks clean out of bone forging, and Yuejian just stops trying to be surprised. And out on the road, Su Shi's father finally wins his bitter fight for the useless curing grass and turns for a home he doesn't recognize anymore. Even the comedy keeps paying dividends. Fan Fei, the scout who mouthed off at me and swore on his life he'd never come back to my mountain, gets assigned by his own sect to escort an apology delegation to that exact mountain the moment they figure out the white-robed sword marquise and the local Zhang chief are the same terrifying person. I get to watch, through the reports, a man break a sacred personal vow because his masters told him to grovel at the feet of someone he insulted. There is a particular flavor of justice that costs me nothing and delights me completely, and Fan Fei is a bottomless well of it. And then there's Fan, out there earning the name I gave him room to earn. He's the bloody hand butcher now, in the taverns, a masked terror who's already erased 2 evil sects, who kills a wanted criminal at a purple mansion peak with a pair of chopsticks in the middle of an inn and then stares down the Imperial Xuanshui guard until they decide they saw nothing. My quiet servant boy has become a ghost story. But the ghost story has an appointment to keep, and it's the one he swore to keep the night I first gave him a coat. The Black Tiger sect, the people who spent years grinding his family into the dirt and worked his mother to death. He goes there and he settles it, sect master and elders and all, feeds his cultivation on the whole rotten place, and leaves nothing standing, the vow he made alone in the dark paid in full, and then, walking out of the massacre, he stops at an inn and pays the innkeeper for his meal. Honestly, fully, more than it's worth, and he keeps a necklace of looted storage rings not for himself but as homecoming gifts for his cousins, and he thinks a thing he'd never say out loud, which is that the family is the warmest place in the world. That's my boy. The daylight world will only ever know the butcher. I know the kid who overpays for soup on his way home from a slaughter because the people at home taught him what a debt is. Both of those are true. Both of them are mine. Hong Wen makes his first move, and it's a clever one, and it fails because Yuan Kai is a coward with excellent survival instincts. Through his commander Duan Li, Hong dangles a promotion at Ding, the lordship of Greenvine City, which is a lovely trap, a gift wrapped around a knife, because a city lordship out from under the Zhang umbrella is a Yuan Kai who can be killed at leisure. Ding smells the death in it and grovels his way out, clings to Wudong and to the forged history that keeps him useful, and survives, drained but alive. And then the suitors come, all of them, Duan Li and the Azure Mountain Sect's Grand Elder Wei Zhuang, and my old friend Fan Fei, all converging on my foot of the mountain to court the family they used to sneer at, and every one of them gets the same education. They walk up past a mountain where innate and acquired cultivators are as common as gravel, where the bone ages run under 30, and the strength runs past sects that have stood 3,000 years, and they meet Yuan with his sword intent and his golden sea, and above all they meet Hua, holding sword intent at the acquired realm, a thing that is simply not supposed to be possible in the whole Great Qin, and something goes out of them, some assumption about where they stand in the world, and it doesn't come back. I'm at the 4th layer of Moonwheel by now, Sword Heart perfected, close enough to Sword King that I can feel the door. So when Wei Zhuang finally works up the nerve to tell me why he's really here, I'm in a mood to listen. It's not a courtship, it's a coronation. 4 Moonwheel powers, the Azure Mountain Sect, the Azure Sijao family, the Heavenly Medicine Sect, the Crimson Soul Sect, have looked at Hong Wen tightening his grip on this prefecture, and looked at the white-robed sword marquis who casually erased a Moonwheel ancestor, and they've decided they'd rather stand behind me than under him. They want me to be their alliance leader. Their 4 old ancestors will come in a month to make it formal, and they'll build a proper cultivator city at the foot of my mountain, a trade hub, Kangwu City, to seal it. I understand the board they're playing on now, the real one, the Cold War that's been running under everything since Great Chu became Great Qin, the court and the sects circling each other for centuries, and I understand that my own family's corpse origin, the Heavenly Demon Sect, was just one casualty in that long, quiet war. I've been treating this prefecture like the whole world. It's a single square on a very large table, so I say yes, not because I need 4 Moonwheel geezers behind me, but because an alliance leader with a city at his feet is an umbrella grown large enough to cover a great deal of walking. I also have them drag Fan Fei back up the mountain for discipline, because a running joke isn't finished until you've squeezed the last laugh out of it. While the Empire reorganizes itself around my name, my second star decides it's time to leave the nest. Su Shi resolves to go traveling, to grow his flame art and his alchemy in the wide world, and to chase the pieces he needs to one day rebuild old Xuan a body. Xuan, who has become genuinely fond of the boy under all the scheming, offers to burn his own soul origin to protect him if it ever comes to that, which is the most sincere thing that Fraud has ever said. And there's a warm little scene with Su's grandfather, old Qin Haiming, who spent his whole life hoarding every resource he could scrape, pressing a ring of his savings into the boy's hand at the door, and Su pressing it right back, because he doesn't need it, and because the family taught him you don't take from the people who love you, and the two of them end up feasting instead of arguing. Su heads out toward Xuan City first to see the old branch home, and this is where 2 roads I've been watching finally cross. because Wang Feng, Su's father, the man who walked off years ago to save his sixth son and vanished, reaches that same Xuan City branch home and finds it empty. A neighbor tells him the branch went home, back to the Jiang, to Kangwu, after some white-robed monster wiped an entire sect off the map for the crime of jilting his son. Feng, now a Yuanhai cultivator with a saber intent, turns toward Kangwu with his heart in his throat, grateful and terrified in equal measure, and privately promising himself that if his kin were mistreated in his absence, he will burn the whole mountain down, patriarch or no patriarch. But he takes a detour first. An old debt, the Morning Glow sect that stole his spirit plant years ago, killed his cousin Jiang Daoqi and blinded the boy, Ye Kai. He goes there to collect. Arrow storms their guards in their purple mansions with a spirit bow, cuts the sect master's hand off with his saber, and then their old ancestor comes down on him 2-on-1, and a wandering man alone runs out of miracles and starts quietly to die. Except my chaos tree has been feeding this man's luck across a continent for months, and luck is a strange thing, and the road Su Shi happens to be walking runs close enough that the boy feels a pull in his blood he can't explain, a tug that says family, that says now, and he turns off his path and finds his father cornered and bleeding in the wreck of a sect he came to punish alone. Su doesn't hesitate. He unfolds 9 dragons burning heaven, the azure flame, and burns both of his father's killers out of the world in one breath. And then he kneels in the ash and says the 4 words the man has been walking toward for years without knowing it. Su Shi greets father. Feng stares at him. He left a dying boy who couldn't hold qi in his body, a mortal, a tragedy he spent his whole life trying to fix. And here is that boy, a young monster of the Star Wheel tier, having just saved his father's life with a technique out of legend, not needing to be saved at all, and the man feels the ground go out from under everything he's sacrificed. Years on the road, years of grief, and his son grew up magnificent without him. It should feel like a miracle. It mostly feels, for one terrible moment, like his whole life was for nothing. I know that feeling. I felt it looking at a dead man's memories the first morning. So I already know what I'm going to do for Wang Feng when he finally reaches my mountain, because there are 2 more broken boys traveling with him, and one of them can't see, and I have a very good record with eyes. The 2 boys Feng brings home are exactly the kind of broken my family runs on. One is a small orphan named Li Hao, who worships my Hao's age idol from a distance and carries a supreme bone he's never been told about. The other is his cousin Ye Kai, blind since childhood, who lost his eyes shielding Hao from the thing that killed both their fathers, and who has spent his whole life in the dark being brave about it. I give Kai back the light. I pour reincarnation onto the old wound the way I did for Xue, win the ruin back to before the ruin, and a boy who hasn't seen his own hands in years opens his eyes, and they are not the eyes he lost. They open as double pupils, celestial pupils, a talent so rare the legends barely bother with it, eyes that see through walls and slow down time and mend wounds, and when he wants, fire a beam that cuts. The blind child looks at the world for the first time in years, and the first thing the world hands him is a superpower. Then I wake the supreme bone in little Li Hao and stand him up in a holy blood foundation, and a 12-year-old breaks through to Purple Mansion, a record for the entire Great Qin, carrying a heavenly calamity light in his small hands, both of them kowtow. Their guardian Feng watches 2 more dead men's sons get remade in an afternoon, and whatever was left of his belief that his sacrifice had been wasted quietly turns into something else, because his family didn't just survive without him. It became a place that gives blind boys new eyes. I make him the head of a lineage. It's the least I owe a man who kept 2 children alive on the road for years so I could finish them. I take my own cut, because I always do. Ye Kai's double pupils, once awakened, teach me the true nature of my own eye, because the chaotic Tao eye doesn't just read the world, it devours other divine eyes and stacks their powers on itself without limit, and I fold a celestial pupil into my sight the way you'd add a lens. I fuse a second supreme bone, take a heavenly tribulation light of my own, cross to the 5th layer of Moonwheel, and pocket a heaven-mending technique that can pull a man back from the edge of death, teachable, shareable, a resurrection I can hand out, and then the system gives me the toy that changes how my family lives more than any sword ever did, a mother-child clan token. It is functionally a phone. It's a small jade tablet that every Jiang carries, indestructible, that finds its way home to its owner if lost, that shows a live map of every clansman within 100,000 miles glowing like stars, that lets you call each other and see each other's faces across the empire, that stores anything you put in it in frozen time, so a beast you kill today comes out fresh next spring, and that runs the whole contribution system, treasury and quests and market as neat menus. I have accidentally invented, for a world of sword immortals and demon sects, the group chat. I mass-produce them and hand them out, and within a week my grand elders are lurking in family channels reading gossip, and cousins are forming private groups for cultivation and for cooking, and, I am told, for fishing, and the 7 veins knit together in real time, and the whole clan gets closer and smarter and faster all at once, and not one of them fully grasps that their reclusive patriarch just gave a cultivation empire the internet. Old Xuan looks at the thing for a long time and gives up trying to be impressed by me on a permanent basis. Under the moon that night, Yekai and Li Hao sit together, the newly sighted boy and the newly mighty one, and Kai talks his little cousin out of the guilt he's carried since the blinding, and the two of them make a quiet pact to hide just how lavishly the family has gifted them, and to grind in secret, to earn what they were given. I let them keep the secret. Boys need to feel like they're getting away with something. Not everything coming is warm. Hong Wen's son, a brat named Hong Yu, sees Hua once and decides he wants to own her, and Hong Wen, ever the strategist, decides a forced marriage alliance is the leash he's been looking for, a way to bind the terrifying Kangwu Jiang to his house through the girl with the impossible sword. He starts planning a visit. Meanwhile, the 4 old ancestors confirm the alliance and the tournament, an alliance grand competition to be held at Kangwu, and the whole point of it, in their heads, is to stage a spectacle where I fight one of them to a draw and cement the deterrence. There's a Zhao prodigy named Mo Su everyone tips to win. I let them plan. I give my grand elders their own tokens and watch decades-old cultivators lose their minds at being able to see each other's faces across a continent, and 2 threads out on the far edges tighten toward things I'll have to deal with. One is quiet and sad. My Yuhang spearboy Liu Shi has a grandfather, the man who raised him, foundation damaged and coughing blood and dying by inches, maybe a year left in him, and Shi has made himself a private promise to save the old man or die trying, and I file it. Because a boy who'd trade the world for the person who raised him is a boy I understand in my bones. The other is loud and coming for one of mine. Out in Shanghai Prefecture, my blood demon killed a spirit beast for a cultivation boost, a white jade treasure rabbit that turns out to have belonged to a young lord named Li Zheng, son of a moonwheel, and Li Zheng finds his pet's bones and swears a blood oath to hunt down whatever ate her. He doesn't know he's swearing to hunt a Jiang. He'll find out. They always find out. And then one morning, the sky over my mountain fills with 50,000 cultivators on cloud boats, and the crowd at the foot of the slope screams that it's an invasion, and it isn't. It's the construction fleet. They've come to build my city. The alliance goes public. The 50,000 start raising Kongwu City out of the ground at the foot of my mountain, and I hire, on 10-year contracts, every alchemist and artificer and formation master and rune master the 4 powers can spare, because I'm not building a fortress, I'm building an economy. And when the system posts the mission for the Alliance Grand Competition, I need an arena, so I point one finger, extend one thread of sword intent, and shear the top off a 1,000-foot peak flat as a table in front of a crowd of Starwheel elders who were feeling important a moment ago and now need to sit down. I name it Beidou Mountain, the Big Dipper, and I tell them to build 7 shielded rings on it, and they go do it very quickly and very quietly. The prizes I set for the tournament are generous on purpose because generosity draws crowds, and crowds make fame, and fame is the umbrella. Longevity pills, heart-refining stones, a golden body elixir, a strange flame, and, kept quiet at the very bottom, a thing called the Emperor Ruler, raw material for an imperial-grade weapon, which makes old Xuan go completely silent when he sees it on the list, because he knows what a boy who cultivates flame art could someday forge from that. My children each want something different out of it. Hua wants a whetstone, the younger ones want a name. Su, quietly, wants the Emperor Ruler. Yan wants the flame, not for himself, but to hand to Su for his alchemy, and under that he wants the thing he can't buy at any price, which is a real opponent. And Liu Shi wants exactly one thing, a longevity pill, to buy his dying grandfather a few more years. I read that on his face and say nothing, and I make sure the pill is on the table. But before the tournament, my family gives me a chance to say the most important thing I'll ever say to them, and it costs me one of my favorite people to say it. There's a rot in the house. A Tianshu boy named Gao An. Lazy, entitled, a leftover from the old main family arrogance who never made peace with a world where merit outranks blood, has been selling us out. Clan intelligence, and worse, the pure Yang skill itself, sold through a liaison to an outside power called the Fengbai Jiang, a distant, wealthier Jiang clan sniffing around our origins. He doesn't get far, because the spirit of books I planted in the library reaches into his own skull and erases the stolen technique before it can leave, and flags him to me while it's at it. I send the law enforcement team, and I send Yuan. They take Anne, and when the traitor's outside handler brings a profound sea uncle to silence the witnesses, Yuan stands in front of that killing blow, takes it full on the ancient sacred body, and crushes the man like a shell. The leak is plugged. The lesson is only beginning, because I put Anne on trial in front of the whole family, and I do not flinch. And I need you to understand that the not flinching is the entire point of everything I've built. He sold his family for spite and comfort, so I sentence him to death and strip him from the clan rolls, and I order Yuan to erase the Fengbai Zhang for buying what wasn't theirs to buy. And then his grandfather stands up. His grandfather is Elder Qin Kong, a man who has served this family faithfully for a lifetime, a man I respect, and he begs for the boy, and when begging fails, he does the honorable thing. He offers to resign his own seat to buy his grandson's life. And this is the moment. Every family in the world would take that deal, because that's how families work. Blood covers blood. The elder's decades buy the grandson's crime. And I say no, not to the boy. The boy is already decided. I refuse the trade itself. I will not let a good man's service become a currency that buys a traitor out of consequences, because the day I let one grandfather's loyalty override the law is the day the law becomes a thing you can afford instead of a thing that's true. And a family whose justice can be bought is a family that's already dead. It just doesn't know it yet. So I don't take Kang's resignation as a bribe. I demote him on his own merits for the lapse of judgment down to warden of the medicine fields, and I tell the whole clan why. The whole family outweighs any one grandson, and it outweighs any one elder, and it outweighs, when the day comes, me. Merit gets rewarded no matter whose blood you carry. Crime gets answered the same way. That rule is the mountain everything else is built on, and I would rather lose the affection of a man I love than crack it. Kang goes to the fields. He understands even, which is the hardest part. And the family watches their patriarch spend his own goodwill to keep the scales honest, and something settles into them that no amount of gifted swords ever could. This is a real place with real rules that even the man at the top has to kneel to. The mission for cleaning the rot pays me 3 of those profound heaven golden pills and a 9-layered illusion tower, and the tower is a gift to the whole clan, a training hall of 9 floors, each a phantom trial that rates your combat power in stars and hands out treasures and then erases your memory of it on the way out so no one can cheat the next climber, keeping only the muscle memory and the growth. I plant it, I name it the Jiang Family Tower, and I send Yuan off to make an example of the Fengbai. Down in the medicine fields where Kang now works, 2 small brothers labor among the enslaved ex-masters, a serious boy named Fan Rui and his little brother Fan Lei, who spends all day talking about how he's going to be as strong as the great Li Hao someday. Hold on to those 2. They're going to matter more than anyone on the mountain could possibly guess. Then I go climb my own tower, because a patriarch doesn't get to hand out a mountain he hasn't summited himself. I clear all 9 floors of the tower, and the 9th floor is a vermilion bird at the 9th layer of myriad manifestation, which I put down with the human sovereign sword, and the beginning list switching its power off, and the great destruction art finishing the argument. It rates me 9 stars, an extreme grade, top of a leaderboard my own children will spend years chasing, and it pays me a Xuantian Xingdo scripture, an imperial rank body refining art that replaces everything I was running and carries me up to the 7th layer of Moonwheel while I read it. The family pours into the tower behind me and starts climbing, keeping the growth and the muscle memory and losing the maps, and the board fills in under my name. Shi and Su and Hua and Hao and Kai all clustered at 6 stars, and Su gets genuinely offended that some unknown named Liu Shi is beating him and stomps back into grind, which is exactly the kind of pettiness that makes a genius. Then I find my banker. His name is Luo Jing. He's 80 years old. He's stuck at the 9th layer of bone forging with the dullest cultivation talent on the mountain, and he is the single most gifted merchant I have ever met, with a Taoti true spirit sealed inside an old artifact he owns that can, once woken, devour to grow, a devouring destiny child who happens to also be a commercial genius, wearing the disguise of a harmless old steward. I don't cultivate him into a fighter. I make him president of the Kangwu Chamber of Commerce, hand him elder rank, and set the chamber up as its own thing, independent, which is a polite way of saying I've just built my family's intelligence network and its treasury in one move and put a man who thinks in ledgers at the head of it. I don't vet him. I employ without doubt, because a man who's been overlooked for 80 years and finally handed real trust is a man who'll die before he betrays it. I give him a profound heaven golden pill, and it doesn't just break him into Hutian, it heals his ruined old foundation and peels 30 years off his face, and I've got a de-aged merchant king running an empire's worth of trade and rumor, and I go back to grinding for Sunwheel. Yuan erases the Fengbai for me while I'm busy, outfights their Starwheel ancestor barehanded, watches a neighboring ancestor take one look at the Kangwu prodigy and flee rather than help, because the name White-Robed Sword Marquis has become a thing that empties rooms. And when Yuan comes home and reports it, refusing every reward I offer because it was all for the family, I decide it's time to give him the thing he actually needs, which isn't a sword, it's a story. So I tell Xuan Yuan who we are. Not the true thing, the iron box and the demon sect and the annihilation. That's a weight I'm not gonna hang on a boy who has to walk into fights believing he's the good guy. I tell him the version he can carry, that the Kangwu Jiang descend from an ancient emperor, Shu Tian, an imperial family that went to ground centuries ago to hide from old enemies, and that we are not a border house clawing its way up from nothing. We are a dynasty remembering itself. We're not rising, I tell him. We're reviving. And I give him back the Bearing Shadow Sword and teach him the Mending Heaven art and the Xuan Tian scripture, and Xuan Yuan, my reject nephew from a Wudon street, the Finnish tragedy, weeps, and he stops calling me clan chief, and he calls me uncle, and I let him, and I mean it, because somewhere in the last months, a lie about family became the truest thing in my life. That's the trade I made the first morning, and I would make it again 1,000 times. The tournament comes on the back of a time skip that's absurd, even by my standards. Yuan climbs to the first layer of Star Wheel, the second strongest thing on my mountain. The clan leaps to nearly 1,000 Hudian, hundreds of innate, dozens of Purple Mansion. I cross to the 9th layer of Moon Wheel, 3 days from Sun Wheel, and Kangwu City stands finished at my feet, and the 7 rings of Beidou wait on their sheared flat peak, and the whole prefecture arrives to watch. The 4 old ancestors of the Alliance come first, 4 moon wheels, the apex of everything these lands have ever produced, and the crowd holds its breath for them. Then I arrive with my children, and I don't do anything, I just walk in, and every one of those 4 ancient monsters goes cold because they can't read me. They can't tell if I'm Moonwheel or Sunwheel or something with no name, and the not knowing is worse than any display I could stage. And then Hongwen comes, the prefecture lord, on a spirit beast throne, and he lets a little of his own aura off the leash, and it reads as something past Moonwheel, half a step into Sun, the strongest thing in the whole lower prefecture, and he's come to remind everyone whose house this is. He makes his play in front of all of them. He proposes the marriage, Hua to his son Hongyu, a prefecture lord's alliance, an offer no border family could refuse, a leash dressed as an honor, and I don't refuse it. I defer to the girl. I ask Hua what she thinks, and Hua, who navigates the world by the color of your clothes and looks at nothing but the blade, considers the arrogant young lord who wants to own her and says, flatly, that he couldn't survive one of her sword strikes, so she doesn't see the point. Hongyu, humiliated in front of the entire prefecture by a girl who can't even tell his face from his father's, has his dignity finished off by Yuan, and Hongwen sits on his throne and smiles and decides privately that after this tournament he is going to kill me, wipe out my prodigies, and take my family's bloodline for his own, because a leash won't hold us and so will have to be broken. I feel the shape of the decision come off him. I've been expecting it since he first called me a kingly body. Meet force with force, I tell my elders. Let him bring everything he has. He's going to. It's going to be the last thing he ever does. The tournament itself is a formality dressed up as a contest. 7 rings, defenders holding each against all comers by an incense timer, the field narrowing from 28 to 1, and I open it wide to every moonwheel force in the prefecture with prizes lavish enough to guarantee they all show. Yan takes the first ring holding nothing but a Zhuan rank sword, a full arsenal of handicaps, and not one outsider dares climb up to face him because the story of him killing a Star Wheel ancestor barehanded has already done the work 100 duels couldn't. Su takes the second, and the top genius of the whole prefecture, a boy named Sun Hao that the crowd rates a match for the Alliance's own golden child, climbs up to challenge him, and Su one-punches him off the mountain. She crushes his challenger on spear intent. Hao, a profound C at 14, a thing that has never happened in the entire Great Qin, kicks out one prodigy and then beats the prefecture's proudest. It stops being a tournament and becomes an inventory. When the dust settles, all 7 ring champions are Kangwu Jiang, Yuan, Su, Shi, Hao, Kai, Hua, and a boy named Lin Tao I barely knew I had, carrying an Azure Lotus divine body and a purple luck. And while I'm sitting there watching my own children lap the field, I turn the eye idly across the crowd of my own clansmen and find 11 more running blue luck that nobody's awakened yet, and 1 more purple, a core member named Fan Jai. My family isn't producing geniuses one at a time anymore. It's a vein of them, and I've barely started mining it. The outsiders do the math that everyone eventually does, that their very best would be, inside my family, unremarkable, and something goes out of them for good. And then, in the middle of round 3, the pond finally opens. Bai Ling comes out of the spirit spring, a true dragon, transformation complete, a myriad manifestation now with a human shape he can wear, and he flies to the tournament and lands beside me, and I introduce him to the world as Zhang Bai Ling, a deceased cousin's son, and the 4 old ancestors of the Alliance feel something come off him that raises every hair they have left and cannot for their lives place what it is. I have a dragon now. He's going to be one of the great comedies and one of the great weapons of my life, both at once, and right now he's just standing at my shoulder being terrifying, which is a mood I intend to encourage. By the time the top 28 is decided, more than half of them are mine, and Hong Wen, watching a border family produce in one afternoon what his whole prefecture couldn't in 3,000 years, stops thinking about after the tournament. His fear catches up to his greed. He decides to strike now. He unloads everything he has, that half step into Sunwheel power, in one killing strike aimed at 13 of my children at once. A prefecture lord's full malice meant to end the Kangwu Jiang bloodline in a single breath in front of the whole world. I put a dome of sacred body over my 13 children, and the killing strike of the strongest man in the prefecture, the malice of a prefecture lord poured into one blow, meant to end my bloodline forever, breaks across it like surf on a cliff, and does not leave a mark. The whole world holds its breath because it just watched a prefecture lord throw everything he had at the Kangwu Jiang and accomplish precisely nothing. And then I walk out to him. I don't draw a sword, I don't use a technique, I don't use time or space or the slaughter or any of the swords I've spent a season learning. I just close the distance, one man walking across the sky toward another, and I put one bare fist through Hong Wen, a punch carrying nothing but my own physical body, no art, no trump, just the flesh a dead cripple's family fed enough love to make into this. And the strongest man in the whole lower prefecture, who spent his entire life climbing toward the Sunwheel and got half a step, who ruled these lands from a spirit beast throne, comes apart in the air in front of every moonwheel force there is. His son goes in the same breath. And the whole prefecture, the 4 old ancestors, the alliance, the crowd, every scheming lord who came to watch a spectacle, goes silent, because I've just killed a prefecture lord with my hands, and there is no lie Yuan Kai can spin that covers that. A prefecture lord is the court's own flesh. I've just reached up past the local board and slapped the empire in the face. I know exactly what it costs. Somewhere far away, in a capital I've never seen, killing Hong Wen is going to land on a desk, and the thing that comes back down the mountain in answer isn't going to be a moonwheel. It's going to be something that can end me. I do it anyway, because the alternative was 13 of my children in the dirt, and there was never a version of me that chose the other way. I send Bai Ling and Duan Li to quietly erase the Hong family down to the foundations, and I let Hong's commander Duan Li run so my dragon can follow him home to the vault. The tournament finishes because the prizes are real and my children earned them. Yuan takes first, then Shi, then Su, then Hao, then Kai, the top of the board wearing my name over and over, the best outsider barely scraping into the 10. She walks straight past every treasure on the table, past the flames and the crystals and the weapons any other prodigy would kill for, to the one thing he came for, a longevity pill. He didn't enter this tournament for power, he entered it for time. His grandfather, the man who raised him from nothing, has a foundation that's been bleeding out for years, coughs red into his sleeve when he thinks no one's watching, has maybe a year left, and Shi took the deadliest forbidden lands in the prefecture apart by himself and swept a tournament full of legends, all of it, to earn one pill that buys the old man a few more years. He carries it home and feeds it to his grandfather with his own hands, and I watch through the mirror as decades peel back off a dying man's face, as the cough eases and the years come back, as a boy who could have chosen to be a god instead chose to be a good grandson. I make a note, the way I always do, of exactly which of my children would trade the whole world for one person, because those are the ones I never have to worry about, and she just wrote his name at the top of that list in ink. Yuan gives the strange flame he won to Su for his alchemy, not even keeping it a full breath, and Su, quietly, has the Emperor ruler tucked away already, the seed of a weapon that doesn't exist yet. Yuan pulls little Hao aside and tells him the thing I told all of them without ever saying it out loud, that power is a debt you owe the people it can't protect, and accepts, gravely, a rematch when the boy's grown. The system grades the whole bloody spectacle top marks and pays a fortune I can feel reshape the mountain, 6100 family luck, the chaos tree climbing to its 3rd level and making my entire clan sharper again in their sleep, a saint rank array that can summon the 4 holy beasts to guard the mountain, and best of all, a myriad things Mother Chi cauldron, a potential immortal artifact, the first natal treasure I've ever held, a thing that will grow up alongside me for the rest of my life. I take it into myself and start refining, and I feel it settle in like it was always mine. I've killed a prefecture lord, I've got a dragon, a natal treasure, and half a prefecture's worth of geniuses under one roof, and the empire has just noticed I exist. Everything up to now was the quiet part. Here's where it gets loud. Bai Ling and Duan Li reach the Hong estate that night and find it guarded by 4 star wheels that Hong Wen kept hidden even from his own commander, which tells you what kind of man Hong was, and Bai Ling puts all 4 down and lets them talk before they go, and what they cough up breaks something in Duan Li that I didn't plan for. His wife, the woman he built a loyal life around, was a mole. Hong planted her on him years ago, a leash he never knew he wore. Everything Duan Li thought was his was borrowed, and a Star Wheel commander's rage at that particular betrayal is a hot enough thing that he breaks clean through into the first layer of Moonwheel standing in the ruins of the lie and swears to erase the Hong family with his own hands. The estate hides one more secret, a caged thing at the bottom of it. A Sunwheel spirit tiger named Hu Li, captured wounded, kept as a living tonic, drained slowly for years so a prefecture lord could steal half a step toward the Sunwheel he never earned. Bailing cracks the cage and pours dragon energy into the beast until the poison burns out of it, and a proud Sunwheel tiger who spent years as someone's medicine gets its life back and, like everyone my family saves, promptly decides it belongs to us. It's got two brothers out there somewhere, Shuilong and Huolei, Sunwheel tigers scattered by whatever caught it. We'll find them. My family has a 100% record on lost brothers. They frame the whole massacre on the escaped tiger, dress it up so the Empire reads a beast breaking loose instead of a mountain settling a score, and then they go and finish what Hong started. Duan Li slaughters the Hong family down to the Moonwheel ancestor at its heart, and at the very end, he finds his wife, the mole, the last thing tying him to the man he used to be, and he ends that too. And then, the debt paid and nothing left holding him to the world, Duan Li kneels in front of Bai Ling and offers up his own life, because a man who's just learned that every truth he built on was someone else's lie doesn't see a lot of reason to keep breathing. Do it, he says. There's nothing left. And Bai Ling, who has been paying close attention to how our family actually works, doesn't take the offer. He looks at the hollowed-out commander kneeling in the ruin of his own life and says the only thing my family ever says to the broken, come be a Jiang instead. Duan Li looks up at him like a drowning man who's just felt a rope touch his hand and can't yet believe it's real. Why, he asks, and Bai Ling, my lazy dragon, gives the truest answer any of us have, which is a shrug and, because you've got nowhere else to be. It's not much of a recruitment speech. It doesn't have to be. To a man who has just discovered he belonged to no one his whole life, being wanted at all is the entire pitch. While all that's happening, I finish refining my natal cauldron and I take the myriad things Mother Qi and the Xuantian scripture and I break through to the first layer of the Sunwheel, 13 stars igniting in my sea, the only Sunwheel cultivator in the entire heavenly capital prefecture, and I feel my dragon coming home across the sky with two strange auras trailing him. And then I get one of the funniest homecomings of my life. Bailing lands, shrinks the Sunwheel tiger down to a fluffy cub tucked under his arm, sets Duan Li down beside him, and kneels to me. Master, he says, my dragon, a myriad manifestation, a thing the four old ancestors couldn't look at without flinching, kneels. And calls a first-layer Sunwheel his master, and I watch Duan Li and Hu Li's understanding of the world quietly fall apart, because in their reckoning it should be the other way around. The dragon should own the man, and instead, here's this terrifying true dragon on his knees to someone he outranks by tears, and if a being that powerful chose to serve this house, then what in the world is the house? They kneel too. They can't not. I read my new people the way I read everyone. Duan Li is carrying a martial king body, dormant his whole life, a royal physique sleeping under a lifetime of being someone else's tool, and I wake it with a gift of divine liquid and stand him up at my own mountain gate as its enshrinement, the man who guarded a prefecture lord now guarding me, which is a promotion so steep it takes him a week to stop looking stunned. Hu Li carries a white tiger bloodline, so I give him a hall of his own, a spirit beast hall under Bai Ling, and a purpose. I bind all three of them with special tokens, and I raise the four symbols Holy Spirit array over the mountain, a sane-level guardian that answers to the four holy beasts, and now anything that comes up my slope with bad intent meets a wall that even a myriad manifestation has to think hard about. There's a thing I notice, watching Duan Li and Hu Li's luck change the moment they cross into the family, and it's the quiet engine under everything I've built. My chaos tree, feeding on the family's fortune, doesn't just bless the blood. It reaches out and pulls. A black luck man like Duan Li, a ruined thing with nothing left, crosses my gate and his luck turns a pale purple because the family itself has become a kind of gravity, drawing broken people in and mending them, and everyone it mends makes the pull stronger. I didn't design that. It grew. My family has started saving people I never even reached for, and I'd be lying if I said that didn't do something to a man who woke up alone in a corpse a year ago thinking he'd been handed nothing but a cheat and a funeral. But the frame won't hold forever, and a prefecture lord's corpse is a loud thing. Far away in the capital, a king and the most dangerous man in the dynasty are reading a report about a dead Hong Wen, and they're deciding what to send. What they send, first, is a colder head than Hong Wen ever had. The king of Qin and his grand preceptor, a man named Murong Xuan, who sits at the 9th layer of myriad manifestation, and is, quietly, the single most dangerous person in the whole dynasty, look at the dead prefecture lord and do not simply lash out. They dispatch Xuan Li, the lord of a neighboring prefecture, a 9th-layer sunwheel, to investigate the Kangwu Jiang and, if he can, destroy us. But they attach a second plan under the first, because Murong Xuan is a careful man. If the Jiang prove too strong to crush, offer amnesty instead. Recruit us. Install one of us as the new prefecture lord. Pull my prodigies into the Empire's own Black-White Academy for the 9 Kingdoms Grand Competition. Fold the wild dog into the pack where it can be watched. A leash, again, but a smarter man's leash. I file it, because a man who's already planning how to recruit you after he fails to kill you is a man you can do business with eventually. But the Empire isn't the thing that comes up my mountain first. My own past does. The Heavenly Demon sect isn't as dead as the history books say. It survives as a rump, a puppet cult run by a great protector at the 2nd layer of myriad manifestation, and its nominal leader is a captive named Feng Jian, a Jiang by blood, kept as a figurehead. And this great protector, sniffing at the noise coming out of my prefecture, puts the pieces together that I only just learned myself, that the Kangwu Jiang are the line of the lost 9th son, Jiang Jiren, the boy who ran with the Heavenly Demon token, the key to the sect's sealed treasury, to the life soul stones that hold the leash on every surviving member, to a heaven-rank demon art. He wants the token. He races to reach my mountain before Xuan Li does. And in his puppet leader's household there's a baby, less than a year old, Feng Jian's son, Feng Gang, who's just been recognized by the sect's Heavenly Demon sword itself, a sword prodigy in swaddling clothes, and his desperate parents are already scheming to smuggle the infant out to freedom. My family's true origin, the demon sect ghost I found in an iron box, has grown legs and is walking toward me carrying a token and a baby and 300 years of unfinished business. While the world converges on me, I do the quiet work that matters more than any of it. I mentor the children who are ready for it. She uses his longevity pill and de-ages his dying grandfather, buys the old man his years, and I watch him do it and love him a little more. And I sit down with Shi and Ji and Tao, the next tier of my monsters, and I tell them the truth I most want them to carry, that the future is theirs, not mine, that my path is fixed and narrowing toward its own end, but theirs is wide open. I hand Ji and Tao the pure yang limitless and golden pills and divine liquid because my whole standard line of arts has a virtue I built into it on purpose, no cultivation threshold, so that the least of my clansmen can run the same foundation as the greatest. I don't hand the standard arts because she carries his own imperial legacy already and it needs to stay his secret, and I tell him so, and he understands, and something passes between us that doesn't need saying. The rewards from all of it keep coming, and one of them turns my mountain into a comedy, along with a divine iron to feed my cauldron and a healing life pool and a pure yin art to fix the yang imbalance that's been quietly stalling Hua and the other women. The system hands me 100 azure cloud white crane cubs, 100 star wheel blooded sacred birds, and they are infants and they are loud and they need raising, and I dump the entire screaming daycare on Bai Ling's new spirit beast hall, which means my terrifying true dragon and his 2 proud sunwheel tigers spend the following weeks buried under 100 cheaping crane chicks, and I regret nothing. And then Xuan Li comes riding from my mountain, and the world's dark sense of humor hands me a gift, because the beast he rides in on, a captured white creature he keeps as a mount, is Huo Lei, the third of the Tiger brothers, the very sibling Hu Li has been aching to find, arriving at my gate as some sneering prefecture lord's saddle. Xuan Li doesn't know he's carrying a member of my family up my own hill to reunite him with his brother. He just knows he's here to investigate the mountain that ate a prefecture lord. He's not the only visitor. Yuan Kai escorts the last of my ancestral home elders up the slope, old centenarians finally coming home, and in doing so he drags his own tangled history into my story, because Ding married into a family called the Nanggong, a declined house with a Star Wheel ancestor and a son of Ding's named Ouyang Jin, and he's here half to deliver elders and half to angle for a marriage tie. Hold on to the Nanggong. They're a small footnote right now, a fated family down on their luck, and they are going to walk into my life at the very end of all this carrying something that shouldn't exist. For now, 3 things arrive at my gate at once. A Sunwheel prefecture lord sent to investigate me, riding my own lost tiger. A demon sect great protector posing as a wandering elder, come to steal a token that's rightfully mine. And a mountain guarded by a man who used to serve the empire and now serves me, because at my gate, welcoming them all, stands Duan Li. The visitors take one look at Hongwen's old commander manning the Kangwu Jiang front door and understand, before they've climbed a single step, that they have badly misjudged where they are. Let them come in and find out how badly. My elders ping me through the token about the 2 heavyweights at the gate, and I tell them I already know, because I do. I read Huo Lei under Xuan Li before the man's even off his mount, and I quietly tip Bai Ling and Hu Li that the lost brother has arrived wearing a saddle, and I let the reunion wait for its moment. Xuanli, touring up my slope trying to look important, keeps stopping to stare because on the way to my hall he passes ordinary Zhang cousins at the Xiantian realm casually running Earth-rank arts, whole clusters of them, a thing you'd expect from a Holy Land and not a border family, and the number in his head keeps climbing. The demon sect Great Protector I take first, because he's the one who came to steal from me. He comes into my hall wearing the disguise of a wandering rogue, an elder Wang, probing at the clan's origin, fishing for the token, certain he's the most dangerous thing in the room. So I take the heavenly demon token out and set it on the air in front of him, and while he's still processing that a border chief is holding his sect's holiest key, I flash the beginningless across him and switch his myriad manifestation power off like a lamp and pin him under the weight of the sacred body's Tao. And this man who came to rob me, feeling his own strength simply cease to exist, drops to his knees on the floor of my hall and says the words that hand me an empire I didn't know I owned. Great Protector Yuan Gang greets the cult leader, because that's what the token is. Whoever holds it holds the sect. I didn't come looking for a demon cult. It knelt to me because a boy ran 300 years ago and hid the key in a box, and now the box is open and I'm the master of the thing that my own ancestors died being. Bai Ling punches Yuan Gang once for good measure and lets his true dragon out where the Great Protector can see it, just so the man understands the full arithmetic of the mistake he made, and Yuan Gang, terrified twice over, tells me everything, the sect's real history, a sealed heavenly demon treasury waiting for the token. And the soul stones, the leash the old sect kept on every member it ever had, a stone that holds a man's life in it, so that whoever owns the stones owns the life and death of every surviving demon down to the Earth Demon Sect's own third guardian, a myriad manifestation in his own right. I accept it, all of it. The Heavenly Demon Sect, a myriad manifestation and 3 sun wheels and 8 moon wheels and dozens of star wheels and thousands of followers, folds into my family as its shadow arm, and I don't march it up my clean mountain. I hand it to Luo Zheng to fold quietly into the Chamber of Commerce, an intelligence network with 300 years of gathered secrets, run out of a merchant's back office where no one will ever think to look. Yuan Gong himself I keep at Kangwu as an everyday enforcer, a myriad manifestation on call for the small problems, because you don't send a dragon to swat a fly. Then I deal with the Empire's messenger, and I do it in a way designed to be repeated in the capital. Xuanli watches all of this from the corner, watches a myriad manifestation grovel at my feet, watches me casually inherit a demon sect, and by the time I turn to him, the 9th layer Sunwheel who came to investigate me is a badly shaken man just hoping to leave. But there's the matter of my tiger. Wolei recognizes Hu Li across the hall, and the 2 brothers who thought they'd never see each other again light up, and I have Xuanli release the beast, and Yuan Gang, eager to please his new master, bullies the prefecture lord into it before Xuanli can even think about refusing. Wolei, freed, kneels to me alongside his brother, a 3rd Sunwheel tiger for the family, and the hidden quest for gathering the 3 brothers ticks another step closer to done. And then I settle the small account, because Xuanli hurt Hu Li badly when he caged him, and because a king in a faraway capital needs a message he can read without me having to write it down. I offer the prefecture lord his freedom. One condition: withstand a single blow from little Bai Ling. Xuanli looks at the waist-high child I'm pointing at, and he relaxes. Because in his reckoning this is theater, a face-saving ritual so both sides can walk away calling it a draw, and he sets his feet and squares his shoulders and gets ready to grandly absorb a toddler's slap in front of the room. I lean over and tell Bai Ling, very quietly, to hold back. I don't actually want a war with the Empire today. My true dragon walks up to a 9th layer Sunwheel, one of the strongest men in the whole dynasty, and smiles at him. It's a warm smile. It's the last warm thing Xuanli's day contains. One small palm touches his chest. That's all. And the renowned lord of a prefecture, a Sunwheel who has ruled and killed and been feared for centuries, folds straight to the floor of my hall with his meridian shattered and his core one breath from collapse, unable to rise, unable to speak, held back, gentled, a courtesy. Hu Li watches the man who once broke him get flattened by a child on his behalf, and I catch something new on the tiger's face, something he's maybe never felt before. He feels protected. He feels like family. Then I let the tiger settle his own account. Hu Li drags the man who caged him down the mountain by the collar and props him at the border, alive on purpose, ruined on purpose. A living letter to the King of Qin. It reads, "This is the toddler. Ask yourself what the adults are like." A warning, not a corpse. A corpse starts a war. A warning starts a negotiation, and I would much rather negotiate. Then I send Bai Ling and Yuan Gang off to open the Heavenly Demon Treasury and gather up the soul stones, so that the leash on 300 years of demons comes home to my hand, and I sit back down to cultivate. The master of a family in the light and a sect in the dark, the only Sunwheel in the prefecture, with a king starting to sweat in a faraway capital. I've stopped being a local legend. I've become a problem the Empire has to solve. and the empire, I already know, is going to try being clever before it tries being brave. Down in Kangwu City, my merchant king stumbles into an empire of his own. Luojung breaks through to Purple Mansion, wakes a divine sense, and that divine sense wakes an old chipped seal he bought years ago as a trinket, and inside it sleeps a Taioti true spirit, an ancient devouring beast, which fuses into him and hands him a hunger that turns everything he eats into cultivation, and, more dangerous, a legacy called casting the dynasty, a way to cultivate on the accumulated luck of a whole nation to be a lord of a dynasty and draw strength from every subject under him. My banker starts, very quietly, dreaming of thrones. I let him dream. A man with ambition that big is a man who'll build me something enormous trying to reach it, and everything he builds is still, at the end of the day, mine. But the beat that stays with me from those days isn't the seal, it's two boys saying goodbye. Sushi decides it's time to go see the world, and before he leaves he goes to Yuan, and he does the single most Zhang thing I've ever watched. He gives his cousin 999 recording stones. Yuan never leaves the mountain. Yuan has decided his whole life belongs to protecting the family, and there's no room in it for wandering, and Su can't stand that his brother will never see any of the beautiful things Su's about to see, so he's going to record all of it. Every sunrise and strange city and impossible view, 999 of them, and when the stones run out, that's when he comes home. And then, Su says, then we spar. And Yuan, who has no idea what to do with being loved that openly, gives him back the silver moon sword, the old profound rank blade I once handed Yuan to inspire him, and passes on the words, I gave it with, that the family and its chief will always be the strongest thing at your back, that if you hit trouble you can't handle you call home and we face it together. Su won't cry in front of Yuan. He turns his back to do it. Kangwu Mountain, he says to the sky as he flies off, wait for me to come home. I watched two boys who came to me broken love each other like that, and I think, not for the first time, that the cheat was never the system. The cheat was getting to be here for this. Hua goes next, and she earns her leaving. She spars Xuejian, cultivation suppressed, pure technique against pure technique, and she disarms the man who taught her, and standing there with her sword, a finger from her teacher's brow, something in her finally opens all the way, and she breaks into Sword Heart, a sword marquis before she's 20, sword kai dragons roaring off the mountain, and then, because there's no one left on Kangwu who can teach her anything, she decides to go find the whole world's swordsmen and take what they know. Shui, who once had the same dream and never got to chase it, can't say no to her. He worries about her the way an old father worries, tries to warn her about lecherous men on the road, and Hua, deadpan, tells him that if anyone lays a hand on her she'll cut it off, and holds up her sword, and Jue decides he's more worried for the men. Her trump on the road, she knows, is the 4 words Kangwu Jiang family, which after Hong Wen have become a thing that empties rooms across 36 prefectures. She flies off to become a legend. She has no idea she's already won. While my children scatter to grow, Bai Ling goes to bring the demon sect home properly, and he brings me back a comedy. Deep in the sect, a captive mother named Xiao Yu is trying to smuggle her baby, my sword prodigy gang, out to freedom, and she's got help, a voice that turns out to be the black and white venerable, the true spirit of the sect's own ancestral master fused into the heavenly demon sword, awakened because the sword chose her son. This is, in its own reckoning, one of the most fearsome beings in the sect's history. It is also, physically, a small, haughty, black and white dog. And when Bai Ling arrives and this ancient terror gets one look at my true dragon, the millennia-old sword spirit takes approximately 1 breath to abandon every scrap of dignity it owns and flip into a shameless flatterer, trotting over to nuzzle Bai Ling's leg and shower him with praise, and Bai Ling, who has been struggling lately to find good enough words to compliment me with, recruits the dog on the spot specifically as a flattery tutor. My dragon acquires an ancient demon sword spirit as a life coach for sucking up to his master. I could not have written it. I wouldn't have dared. Bai Ling reassures Xiao Yu that he's come to bring her home, not harm her, flattens the sect's Purple Mansion guards with a fraction of his pressure, extracts the puppet leader Feng Jian, and Xiao Yu proclaims to the whole cult what they are, the true line of the 9th son, come back to reclaim them. The sect and the Zhang branch submit as one, weeping and terrified, and, under it, relieved, because being a mascot everyone bullied for 300 years turns out to be a worse life than kneeling to a family that's finally strong. My people come home, all of them. The ones in the light and the ones in the dark and the ones who forgot they were ours at all, and out past all of it, in a far prefecture, my blood demon is about to do the loudest thing he's ever done, and it's going to make the Empire's problem with the Kangwu Jiang so much worse. Fan gets cornered. It was always going to happen. He's been the blood demon too long and too loudly, and an entire prefecture finally corners him on a peak called Demon Subduing Mountain. And it is not a fair fight, it's a firing squad. 15 moonwheel masters, and the Shanghai prefecture lord himself, a full sunwheel named Yin Qiu, and among them Li Zheng, the young lord who swore to kill whatever ate his pet rabbit and has finally found his man. They ring him in and gloat and offer him the mercy of a quick death, and my boy, my quiet servant who overpays for soup, looks at the whole prefecture assembled to erase him and tells them they use the righteous path's name to do the demonic path's work and are worse than any demon, and then he plays the trump I gave him a lifetime ago in a Wudan street, the Golden Crow Chi, 10 breaths of a sunwheel god's shadow. The storm-dark sky over demon-subduing mountain turns to gold, a second sun falls out of it, and it lands on the men who came to execute a border family's forgotten son. Thousands of cultivators, all 15 moonwheels, and the sunwheel prefecture lord himself, gone, torn apart, souls burned to nothing. Li Zheng drained to dust with the rest. A single prefecture's entire apex erased in 10 breaths by a wisp of a gift I handed a boy back when neither of us knew what he'd become. Fan walks through the ash and loots it clean and thinks with cold satisfaction that none of them will leave. Then a survivor with a longer view finds him, a sunwheel named Shui Yue who leads the Earth Demon sect, the other half of the sect my family splintered from 300 years ago, and instead of fighting he offers Fan a chair, a guest elder's seat, flexible, no obligations, join us and share our enemies. And Fan, who has just made himself the most hunted man in the region, takes it, not out of loyalty, but as cold strategy, because the Earth Demon sect is already a target the court wants dead, so hiding inside it draws the Empire's eye away from a certain mountain full of the people he loves, and keeps his devouring secret buried where no one's looking. My boy in the dark makes himself a shield out of a demon sect specifically so the family in the light stays clean. He doesn't know yet that the sect he's just hidden inside is his own blood, the mirror of the one I just inherited. He's going to find out, and it's going to bring him home. Passing cultivators find the massacre afterward, find a prefecture lord in pieces, and the terror of it runs straight up the chain because the last man who dared kill an imperial prefect was the heavenly demon sect's own leader 300 years ago, and the whole world united to erase him for it. Now it's happened twice in a season, once by me and once by Fan, and the Empire's problem with the Kangwu Jiang stops being a problem and starts being an emergency. And here's the part that makes me laugh alone at the top of my mountain. Killing Li Zheng was, to the system, my long Fan slaying a rival Destiny child, so a hidden kill mission I didn't know I had pays out, 1,500 family luck and a stack of treasure boxes, and I open them and the boy who's out there being a ghost story just funds my whole afternoon. A golden spirit physique, a metal spirit body that turns a swordsman monstrous, an azure sword, a pair of 9 netherworld claws that only a dragon can wield, which is convenient because I have exactly 1 dragon. And at the bottom, the trump to end all trumps, a primordial dharma plate, a one-time talisman that summons the incarnation of a god from beyond, and the system dryly notes that since this world's ceiling is the Great Emperor realm, the incarnation has been dialed down to merely Great Emperor for 3 breaths. 3 breaths of a god the size of the sky, folded up in my pocket for the day the world finally sends something I can't punch. I put it away with the specific reverence of a man who's just been handed the family's last resort and hopes to die of old age never using it. Then I go find Sui Jian because there's a golden spirit physique with his name on it and a thing I've been meaning to give him that isn't a treasure. I catch him just as Hua's about to leave, the teacher and his impossible student side by side, and Shui, who came to my mountain, a bitter, one-armed stranger and has since gotten his arm and his sword and his purpose back, pours out the thing he's been carrying, that in all his years of wandering he never found a family, that the Kangwu Jiang are the only home he's known, that he's privately wondered 100 times why he isn't a Jiang, so I give it to him. From this day I tell him, you carry the name, Jiang Xingjian, an elder of the Tianquan lineage, written into the genealogy in ink. A man who spent decades belonging to no one weeps at being claimed, the first outsider ever to take our surname, and I mean it exactly as much as I meant it with Yuan. I teach him in Hua both the 10,000 swords return to origin. I fold the golden spirit physique into Shui to bloom over 3 days, and Hua, watching the timing of it, realizes with a jolt that her own awakening by the spring, the miracle she thought she stumbled into, was me all along, quietly building her the way I build all of them. And as a parting gift, before she flies off to fight the world, I put a sword in her hands, a Qingming blade, heaven top, cold enough to drop the air around it, and I tell her to spread the family's name and let no one look down on us. She bows, she goes, my deadliest child, walking out into the wide world with a god's sword and no idea she's the storm and not the sailor. I have handed out family in a season to a demon sect, 3 tigers, a broken commander, a dragon, a sword spirit dog, and a lone wolf swordsman. My cheat was never really the system. My cheat is that I turned out to be very, very good at the one thing the dead man whose body I stole was never given the chance to try. The Empire tries clever, exactly like I said it would. The king of Qin and Murong Xuan, having gotten Xuanli back as a broken warning, decide against sending a bigger sword and settle on a smarter envelope. They dispatch Yang Xiong, the demon dragon general, Murong Xuan's own disciple, a fourth-layer myriad manifestation carrying a dragon king body with two faces to his mission. The open face is amnesty. Offer to make me the new prefecture lord or one of my people. Fold the wild dog into the pack. The hidden face is reconnaissance. Get up my mountain and find out what I actually am. And in case I refuse to be a lord, they've picked a backup they think I'll tolerate. My own coward, Yuan Kai, to be installed in Hongwen's empty chair as a friendly hand on the prefecture. It's a good plan. It has one flaw, which is that everyone in it keeps underestimating the mountain. Word of the second dead prefect reaches the capital and the king of Qin nearly comes apart. 2 prefecture lords in a season, until he learns the second one was the blood demon and not me, and sags with relief and orders a manhunt for a masked killer who is, of course, my long fan. Xuanli, meanwhile, having survived one visit to my mountain by the width of a hair, quietly decides that being a prefecture lord has become a fatally high mortality profession and resolves to resign and hide in a decade of seclusion, which is the single most sensible thing anyone in the empire does all season. Yang Xiong flies for Kangwu. At home, my mountain is celebrating 3 swords. The clan is still buzzing that Shuijian is Jiang Xingjian now, the first outsider ever given the name, when the reports of Hua come rolling back and knock them flat all over again. My sword fanatic has been out in the world for a matter of days and has already challenged 12 forces and lost to no one her own age, then gotten bored of her own generation and started dismantling the elders, sweeping every purple mansion she meets, hailed invincible in purple mansion by cultivators twice her cultivation, a legend forming in real time. And back home, Jiang Xingjian's 3-day fusion finishes and pays off harder than I dared hope. The golden spirit physique carrying him to the 3rd layer of Star Wheel, and then the rare mutation actually fires, a platinum gang metal chi budding in him, and on the back of it, his sword intent finally perfects, and he breaks into Swordheart, the clan's 3rd sword marquis. After me, and after the girl he trained. 3 marquises under one roof, a thing rare in the entire Great Qin, and it happened in a season. She quietly reaches perfection spear intent off his mysterious 6-sided stone. Yan feels it all through the token and is simply, purely glad because that's who he is. Even Duan Li blooms. The martial king body. I woke in him finishes its work, and my gatekeeper grows to well over 2 meters of bronze steel, comprehends a second concept on top of his old saber, and understands, staring at his own hands, that his patriarch manufactured a royal physique for a hollowed-out enemy commander like it was nothing. He resolves to guard my gate harder. Everyone I mend decides the same thing. It's the most reliable return on investment I've ever found. Out in the dark, Fan finds a thread he isn't expecting because the Earth Demon sect he hid inside turns out to be his own blood. He feels it, a bloodline resonance humming off the sect's puppet leader, and understands that the Earth Demon and the Heavenly Demon are 2 halves of the same shattered house, the same house I just inherited, which makes these strangers his kin. And when the sect's 3rd guardian hands him a mission, go to Kangwu City, make contact with the Down Mountain Jiang, dig out their origins, Fan nearly laughs because they've just ordered him to go home. He accepts with a straight face. My hidden blade is coming back to the mountain carrying the enemy's own errand as his cover. Yang Xiong reaches my gate, a myriad manifestation, and expects to be a very big deal, and my purple mansion gate captain recognizes the name and alerts my grand elder, and Yang Xiong stands there mildly insulted that a mountain treats a myriad manifestation at its door as a Tuesday. He's not wrong that it's a Tuesday. We get several a week now, and while an empire's general cools his heels at my gate, my family is on their phones. I have to tell you about the phones, because it's the thing I'm quietly proudest of. The Kangwu token grew 2 new features, a clan-wide family forum where any cousin can post, and family group chats you spin up and invite people into, and the mountain has taken to both the way a dry field takes water. My grand elders lurk in the channels reading gossip they'd never admit to reading. There are official groups for the Elder Council, and each vein for instant orders. And there are the private ones, the ones the youngsters made, for cultivation and for romance advice, and for arrays and weapons and alchemy, and, I am reliably informed, for fishing, for food, and for chess. A cultivation empire that a season ago communicated by messenger bird and rumor now runs on group chats, knit so tight that a joke in one vein reaches the other 6 by evening, and every one of them a little smarter and closer and faster for it, and not one of them fully grasping that their reclusive patriarch handed a world of demon sex and sword immortals the internet and then went back to bed. Old Xuan saw the fishing group and stopped speaking for a full day. Let the Empire's general cool his heels. I want him to see all of it before I tell him no. I let Yang Xiong come up, and I don't do anything to him either. I just say, "Come in," from inside my hall, and the general who traversed the 9 kingdoms feels the 2 words land like the voice of the great Tao itself and goes cold to the bone, because a myriad manifestation who has met his own terrifying master, Murong Xuan, the dynasty's strongest, can hear in one sentence that the man in this hall is further up the mountain than his master ever climbed. He decides on no evidence and complete conviction that I must be an ancient monster wearing a young body, because the alternative, that a man under 50 simply is this, doesn't fit inside his head. I read him back, dragon, king body and all, and when he finally stammers out the amnesty, the offer to make me a prefecture lord or a vassal with a nice title, I give him the only answer that was ever going to come. The Kangwu Jiang can only ever be the Kangwu Jiang. We will never be anyone's vassal, not for a chair, not for a crown, not even a name. Privately, I think about how easily I could simply replace the dynasty with a more obedient one, and privately I decide against it, for now, because that kind of noise draws the eyes of things above even Murong Xuan, and I have children still growing. Yang Xiong, cowed, promises to make the king leave us alone, and half wishes, I can see it on him, that he could just defect to me himself. But Yang Xiong's Dragon King body notices something on his way down my mountain that turns a cowed general into a future problem. He passes Bai Ling coming home, and his own draconic blood senses what my dragon truly is, a genuine true dragon, and a hunger lights up in a man who has spent centuries searching for exactly that, because bathing in true dragon blood is the road to a dragon emperor body, the peak a man like him dreams of. He restrains himself because he can feel that I'm too far above him to rob, but he flies away having marked my dragon the way a starving man marks a feast, and he swears, quietly, to come back for it. I file him. A man who covets one of my children is a man I'll be seeing again, and next time he won't be delivering an amnesty. The backup plan at least I'm happy to allow, because it's a gift dressed as a leash. Yang Xiong offers Yuan Kai the prefecture lord's chair, and Ding, my coward with the excellent instincts, weighs it and takes it, not out of ambition but out of loyalty, because he'd rather the seat that oversees my prefecture belong to a Jiang loyal man than to some outsider who'd make trouble. So the empire, trying to install a friendly hand to watch me, installs my own. Yuan Kai becomes the lord of the whole heavenly capital prefecture, and now the official who's supposed to be the court's eye on the Kangwu Jiang is a man who slapped himself 90 times swearing loyalty to me. I didn't even have to ask. The empire is so busy being clever that it keeps handing me the board one piece at a time. At home, I take in the last of my scattered blood. The heavenly demon branch, hundreds of them, folds into a thin vein of the family, and the followers I hand to Luo Zheng's chamber, and I take up the soul stone at last, and find inside it the true spirits of every demon the old sect ever leashed, the lives of Yuan Gang and his kind, and even the earth demon sect's third guardian held in my palm like cold beads. 300 years of demons now live or die at my word. And Bai Ling sets a baby in front of me, Feng Gong, the infant the heavenly demon sword chose, and I read him and have to smile, because the chaotic Tao eye gives me a mortal physique, and under it, a single blazing line, potential for a sword god. A baby in swaddling clothes with the makings of a sword god, the first destiny child this family has produced, still too young to hold his own head up, and I think, with real anticipation, about the day this infant is grown enough to cross swords with Hua, my sword immortal, and I decide Zhang Xingjian will teach him when he can read. My family is now producing legends faster than they can grow up, and then there's the comedy the family runs on, because I cannot be all thrones and soul stones or I'd lose my mind. My spirit beast hall is in crisis because I dumped 100 screaming crane chicks on it, and my 2 proud sunwheel tigers, Hu Li and Huo Lei, beings that could level a city, are pinned to the floor of the hall, buried under cheeping infants clinging to their horns and tails, utterly defeated, and when Bai Ling comes home they beg him for rescue, and Bai Ling takes one look at the situation, remembers urgent business elsewhere, and flees, abandoning his own tigers to the daycare. He goes to hide in the spirit spring in his true dragon form to nap, which is the whole of Bai Ling's ambition in life, to get stronger while lying down, and he gets caught mid-hide by little Li Hao, who's come to the spring to fish. And instead of terror, my supreme bone 12-year-old just looks up at the 1,000-foot dragon coiled in the water and, unimpressed, informs it that with the clan chief around, good dragon or evil dragon, it'll have to behave, and points out that nobody's gone missing, so quit lying about eating people. Bai Ling, delighted that anyone praises me that hard, swears the boy to secrecy about his dragon shape and, playing the doting elder, gifts Hao a few drops of true dragon blood to refine. 2 of my future pillars, bonding over a fishing hole, one of them a god and one of them a child, both of them mine. The empire wanted to leash a wild dog. It's starting to understand that it wandered into a whole different kind of animal, and it hasn't even seen me leave my mountain yet. I fold the demon sect's manpower into Luo Jing's chamber, thousands of masked cultivators becoming a merchant empire's quiet muscle and its ears, and I give my banker 3 Sunwheel envoys of his own as bodyguards, Song Fan and Du Feng and Shui Li, 3 of the demons whose lives sit in my soul stone and who therefore serve without a flicker of doubt. Luo Zheng, who a season ago was an 80-year-old steward nobody looked at twice, is now the lord of Kangwu City and the head of a trade network spanning prefectures with 3 Sunwheels standing behind his chair. I employed him without doubt. He's repaying it by building me the richest, best-informed shadow in the empire. Far away, meanwhile, the one man alive who could actually threaten me was making a choice that would, months later, put him on his knees in front of me, though neither of us knew it yet. Murong Xuan, the Grand Preceptor, the dynasty's true apex, gets word from his own son of something buried in the empire's north, a cave heaven's small world, a pocket realm of endless beasts and untouched treasure, the kind of prize that could carry even him across the last threshold he's been stuck below for centuries. And when the reports about the Kangwu Jiang reach him at the same time, when his own disciple Yang Xiong tells him that Lin Chenggan is a thing beyond even the Grand Preceptor, Murong Xuan makes the smartest decision anyone in the empire makes all year. He decides not to provoke me, send goodwill, leave the Jiang alone, and go claim the cave world quietly while I'm busy being a local god. He slips out of the capital in secret, leaves his own son wearing his face as a decoy, and vanishes north toward a prize that is, unbeknownst to him, about to be taken out from under him by the very family he chose not to fight. I do love it when the careful ones outsmart themselves. And into all of this, my hidden blade finally comes home and gets the worst welcome and the funniest lesson of his life. Fan reaches Kangwu City, and he almost doesn't recognize it because in the season he's been away, it's grown past Tiandu City itself into the first city of the prefecture, famous across 36 of them, and every third sentence in the gate queue is somebody praising the Kangwu Jiang. He takes off the human skin mask he's worn for months because he's on home soil now, safe, and he lines up to enter his own family's city carrying a sack of looted storage rings as homecoming gifts, swelling with pride at hearing strangers wish they'd been born a Jiang. And then he watches a moonwheel try to skip the queue by flying over the wall, and the wall erupts, and my gate captain, Du Feng, a full sunwheel, slams the moonwheel down into the dirt for breaking the no-fly law, and the crowd watches with the bored satisfaction of people who see it happen weekly. And Fan stands there stunned, because a sunwheel, a being who back in the Earth Demon sect ranked just below its third guardian, is working the door of my city like a common guard. He realizes, standing in that line, that he has no idea how far his own family has climbed. He gets a sharper lesson inside the walls, and it's the funniest thing that happens to my family all season. He's standing in the street riding a sudden cultivation epiphany, gone still as a stone, when a young lord of the Huang family, some moonwheel house with a daughter marrying into the clan, orders his guard to shove the loitering nobody out of the road. The guard pushes. Fan doesn't move. The guard puts his back into it, and Fan is a mountain. So the guard, embarrassed, reaches for real power to make a point, and Fan comes out of his epiphany irritated at having lost it, catches the man's wrist, and crushes his hand to gravel without looking. Fine. Except then the young lord demands to know who dares maim a Huang, and Fan straightens up and gives the name the way you'd draw a sword. Kangwu Jiang, he says, Long Fan, and the whole street laughs at him because he doesn't have a token. In the months my blood demon was out erasing prefectures, the family started carrying the Kangwu token, an unforgeable jade tablet, and now every real Jiang has one on their hip, and every con artist in 36 prefectures has learned that the fastest way to get robbed of a meal is to claim the holiest name in the region and be unable to prove it. So here's a masked-off nobody with no tablet, standing over a maimed guard, claiming to be a Kangwu Jiang, and the young lord sneers that he can't even fake it properly, that he should have picked a smaller family to impersonate, and the crowd jeers along, and my Fan, the terror of Shanghai, a being who burned a prefecture's entire apex to ash in 10 breaths, has no idea what a token even is, because he left before the family invented ID cards. He's fallen so far behind on the group chat he can't prove he's in the group. He decides it isn't worth the argument and turns to leave, and the young lord's star-wheel great-uncle steps out to seize the imposter, and Fan catches the old man's fist bare-handed and lets a sliver of star-wheel off the leash, and the great-uncle goes gray because whatever this nobody is, he's their equal, and imposters are not usually star-wheels. And then a boy in fine robes with a token on his hip pushes through the crowd, takes one look, and calls out, "Brother Fan." It's Liu Yun, a childhood friend, and he vouches, and he mentions, mildly, that perhaps cousin Xuan Yuan should come pay the Huang family a visit to discuss the misunderstanding, and the young lord goes the color of a fish belly, because the name Xuan Yuan empties rooms, and drops to his knees, and slaps himself a dozen times in the open street and flees, dragging his gray great-uncle after him. The crowd watches a moonwheel house grovel over a slip of the tongue and aches, out loud, that they weren't born a Jiang. And Fan, who left this family a servant boy and came home a demon king, gets humbled by a thing that has nothing to do with power because he stands in that street and watches an entire city bend at the mere sound of 4 words his family carries, and understands that while he was out becoming a monster, the people he loves became a gravity. He heads up my mountain to collect his token and to report the errand that was, underneath, just an excuse to come home. But the thing waiting for me at the top of that mountain isn't Fan, it's Yuan. Because for a few nights now, my eldest boy has been dreaming, and in the dreams he lives another man's whole life, a boy also named Yuan, in a place called the Great Feather Dynasty, the memories arriving in fragments, infancy then 5 then 15, and every morning he wakes carrying more of that other Yuan's sword insights and more of that other Yuan's fire, and he started to understand what's happening to him, and it's terrifying him, because the dreams are his own past life waking up. The ancient emperor the eye read in him the very first day is opening his eyes inside my nephew, and Yuan has done the math and arrived at the worst possible fear, that when those centuries of memory finish surfacing, they'll wash him away, that he'll wake up one morning and not be Xuanyuan anymore, just some cold stranger from 1,000 years ago wearing his face. He comes to me with it, because I'm the only one he trusts to be omniscient. And I already know what he's afraid of, because I read it on him the first morning in a Wudan street. My boy is afraid of losing himself, and I'm about to have to decide how much of the truth a frightened child can carry. I read him properly before I say a word because I want to know the truth before I decide which truth to give him. His luck runs red now, the third of my children to reach it after Fan and Hao. His past life memories are surfacing, exactly as he fears. And then, there's the line under it, the one the system gives me that changes everything, the one Yuan can't see, that no matter how much of that ancient emperor wakes up inside him, Xuanyuan remains the dominant self. He will not be overwritten. The other Yuan is a legacy, an inheritance, not a passenger taking the wheel. My boy is terrified of drowning in a tide that the system is quietly telling me will only ever lift him. Investing in Yuan even in this pays out, of course. A red rank hall, a Haitian mirror that scries the world and freezes what it looks at, a hidden pocket realm called White Jade Capital I can barely believe, a Taiji scripture at the very peak. I take all of it in half a breath and set it aside, because none of it matters next to the boy in front of me who is asking me with his whole heart to help him not disappear. He doesn't ask for reassurance. He's braver than that, and it breaks me a little. He tells me that even if he's someone's reincarnation, he is a Zhang, my nephew, and if the day ever comes that his past self would turn on the family, he wants me to kill him first. He'd rather die as Xuanyuan than live as a stranger who might hurt the people he loves. He closes his eyes and asks his uncle to grant him death before he can become a weapon pointed at his own home. And I put down every game I'm playing, the Empire and the Mirror and the Cave World, all of it, and I cross the hall to my boy. I lay my palm on his head, the way I did the first day in a Wudan street when he was a dying reject who'd walked home just to fall down at his own gate. Silly child, I tell him, your situation is not like the others. Even with every memory of every past life, you will still be you. There will be no stranger. Absorb what wakes up in you. Take the insights, let them make you stronger, and stop being afraid, because the one thing that was never in doubt is who you are. And if you're ever uneasy, if it ever feels like you're slipping, then all you have to remember is that your uncle is still here. Then I kneel down and I pull Xuanyuan into my arms and I hold him. He goes rigid because no one has held this boy since his parents died, because the notorious blood-handed prodigy of 36 prefectures does not get held. And then he breaks. He cries the way a person cries who has been strong in public for years and has finally, for one moment, been given a room where he's allowed not to be. I pat his back and I tell him to go ahead, cry all he wants, because here, with his uncle, he can and he won't get the chance out there. And while he sobs into my shoulder, I quietly flare a film of sun origin power around the whole hall, a golden dome, and I seal every sound inside it, so that not one person on my mountain will ever hear the leader of the younger generation weep like the boy he still is. He has a fierce pride and a public face to keep. I will burn down my own reputation before I let anyone take his. That's the whole of it, right there, the entire thing I built the family to be, a place where the strongest child gets to be small for a minute, safely, in the dark, in his uncle's arms. When he's done, I pour 3 of my best arts into him to steady his hands and give him somewhere to put all that new strength, the Kunpeng for speed, and the grass character sword for killing, and the mending heavens so he can save others, and I pre-gift him the 9 revolutions for the realm he's about to reach. And privately, I look at my new toys and see the door they open, because the Haitian mirror can find a cave heaven small world, and White Jade Capital can be grown into a sealed heaven where my best children cultivate at a speed the outside world can't touch. The tools I need to take my family to the next thing were sitting in a frightened boy's investment box the whole time, And then Fan comes in, and I get to do it again, differently, for the other kind of broken. I reveal his star wheel before the room, and while he's still off balance from being seen, I tell him the truest thing I have. I have no wife, I tell him, no children, no blood of my own to carry my name forward. But you, and Yuan, and every one of you who carries my will and pours your life into this family, you are my offspring, an extension of everything I am, and so I have never once been lonely. And I look at the boy who was made to feel like a stray his entire life, whose own mother's family treated him like a servant, who wandered alone through more killing than any child should survive, and I tell him, you lost your parents, you walk the dark by yourself, but you need never be lonely again, because you may regard me as your father, and I will always be standing behind you, in the wind and the rain, for the rest of your life. Fan, who won't cry in front of Yuan, presses his forehead to the cold floor and swears to be my sword unto death, and I tell Yuan quietly, you too, so neither of them ever wonders. Two boys who came to me with nothing, both promising to die for a family that a year ago didn't want either of them. Then Fan reports his errand, the Earth Demon Sect and its Jiang blood, and I tell him I already know that I've taken the other half of the same broken house, and I decide to take his too. And I offer my hidden blade, the thing I've been building him towards since I first gave him a coat. Lead it. A reborn heavenly demon sect, the family's arm in the dark, and bear the infamy of it, the name the whole world will want dead, carry it without a single regret, so that the family in the light stays clean. And Fan doesn't hesitate for even one breath. In a Zhang child's heart, he says, there is no such word as retreat. He accepts the crown that comes with the world's hatred, and he thinks a thing to himself that I catch and will never forget, that Yuan is the leaf that gets to live in the sunlight and he is the root, buried in the dark, holding the whole tree up where no one can see. My boy chose the dark on purpose, so his brothers could have the light. I gave that child a coat once. He's paying it back with his soul. I send Fan off to take his sect, and I go into my new heaven to take my next realm. White jade capital, unfolded into the void near my mountain, is a crystalline pocket world with air so thick with qi it's like breathing an imperial vein, and I sit in it and climb to the second layer of Sunwheel and feel the door to Sword King standing open just past my fingertips. I put the cave world hunt aside for a few days. First I want the sword. Fan takes his sect with Bai Ling at his shoulder, and it goes about how you'd expect. He walks into the Earth Demon Sect's own Hall of Annihilation and announces that from today, his word is law, and when a Sunwheel instructor lunges to punish the arrogance, Bai Ling puts the man through a stone pillar, and when the third guardian himself, a myriad manifestation named Yuan Long, rises in fury, my dragon flash kicks him across his own hall and seats Fan on the throne. Fan drops the heavenly demon token onto the air, the twin of the one that made Yuan Gang kneel, and the recognition is forced out of every demon in the room. Shui Yue kneels first. The third guardian bows last, only because his life is a bead in my soul stone and he knows it. Fan renames the place back to what it was, the heavenly demon sect under his own hand, and the two halves of the house my family shattered 3 centuries ago become one again, whole, and pointed at whatever I aim it at. Fan swears them all to secrecy about his true face, hauls the sullen third guardian back to Kongwu for correction, and just like that my hidden blade has an empire of his own in the dark, exactly as big and as quiet as I need it. 2 months pass, and I want you to understand the scale of what 2 months does to my family now, because it's genuinely absurd. In the capital, Murongshuan's absence is covered by a rumor that the Grand Preceptor has gone into seclusion, and the empire buzzes that a primordial spirit is about to be born at court, and no one guesses that their strongest man is actually alone in a pit far to the north, but I'm getting ahead of myself. At home, my Chamber of Commerce eats its rivals and becomes the first trade house of the whole prefecture, top 20 in the entire dynasty, and Luo Zheng grinds his touty belly quietly toward the star wheel. My reborn heavenly demon sect, Fan's dark arm, hunts the vilest killers the demonic world has to offer across 36 prefectures, and none of the men it takes ever come back, and Fan climbs to the 4th layer of Moonwheel on what they leave behind. Out in the wide world, Hua has become the white rainbow sword marquise, undefeated, trailing 6 of the finest young swordsmen alive as devoted followers, a name known past Qin's own borders. And on my mountain the numbers climb into the hundreds of innate and the dozens of purple mansion, Duan Li to the 7th layer of Moonwheel, Bai Ling to the 4th of Myriad Manifestation, and Yuan, my Yuan, to the 2nd of Moonwheel, and an 8-star rating on the family tower, the only clansman but me ever to reach that floor. My family, in 2 months, outgrows powers that stood 3,000 years. I've stopped being surprised. I've started expecting it. And in my hidden heaven, I finish the sword. I condense a sword spirit, a golden phantom blade above my head, and cross into Sword King. And on the way through the door, I comprehend not one attribute of the sword, but 3. The first is slaughter, born of all the killing intent I've banked since a Wudan courtyard, and it's the weakest of the three, which should tell you something. The second is space, comprehended out of the void that white jade capital floats in, a sword that cuts the gap between 2 points to nothing. And the third, the one I didn't expect, born of the reincarnation and the mending heaven working together, is time, a sword intent that ages what it strikes to dust or wins it back to a seed, all things born and all things ended in one stroke. Time is supreme, and space is king, and I hold both of them now as sword intent, a thing countless cultivators never dared to dream once, and the killing intent that terrifies the whole world is, in my hand, the least of what I carry. My cultivation crosses to the 9th layer of sunwheel behind it, a single step from myriad manifestation, close enough to touch. Then I turn the Hyoshin mirror on the world and ask it a question. Where is the nearest cave heaven small world? And the mirror shows me the north, a storm-dark pocket realm boiling with beasts, and I recognize it, because the Empire has been calling it the North Cave Beast Uprising, and the beasts are pouring out of exactly the place I now intend to steal. The deeper reading flashes me a pair of vast blood-red eyes for 3 breaths, and then cuts off. But I've got what I wanted, the location and the fortune reads clear. Today is a very good day to go take a heaven out from under a Grand Preceptor's nose. I fly north. Somewhere in that storm, the most dangerous man in the dynasty is about to be saved by the one family he was smart enough not to fight, and he's never going to figure out it was me. I fly into the North Cave and find the strongest man in the dynasty dying in a hole. Murong Xuan got here 2 months before me, and it went so much worse for him than for me that it loops around to funny. A beast in this pocket world, a white deer thing at the 3rd layer of myriad manifestation, bit his arm off. The Grand Preceptor of Great Qin, the man his own disciple thinks stands above me, burned his lifespan to escape and has been rotting in a cave ever since. His core holed through, his soul cracked, weaker than a mortal, unable to even open his own storage ring. And as I arrive, the beasts have finally found his hiding place and are coming to eat him, and then they all suddenly turn and stampede off toward the great stone tablet I planted here, and a golden sun drops out of the sky and starts erasing them, and Murong Xuan, seeing a god descend, assumes some force from a higher dynasty has come to reclaim the world, and lies there in the blood mud simply grateful he might finally get to leave. He has no idea the god is the one man in the empire he was smart enough not to fight. I don't slaughter the beasts, even though I could. I want them. A pocket world stuffed with monsters and treasure is the perfect training ground for my children. So instead of killing them, I raise the Hyoshin mirror and freeze every one of them where they stand. A million beasts turn to statues mid-charge, terror locked into a million frozen eyes. I planted a town-suppressing tablet from white jade capital to devour this whole world's own consciousness and feed it into my hidden heaven. And the dying world mind rallied every beast in a last effort to stop me. And it doesn't matter, because I froze the effort in place. Murong Xuan gapes up at me and manages one question, "Who are you?" And before I can answer, the very deer beast that crippled him charges me, greedy for the tablet, calling me boy, and the ruined Grand Preceptor lies there and smiles, waiting to watch the monster that maimed him get torn apart. Except my sword finger stops a breath from the beast's skull, because I feel something in it, a connection, family. I read it. Under the monster is Shui Long, the lost second tiger brother my spirit beast Hall has been aching to find, wearing a deer's shape and a stolen body, possessed by a thing called the Black Mountain Old Ancestor, a former Saint Realm beast worn down to a battered scrap of soul, who devoured its way to sainthood, got hunted for it, fled here 10,000 years ago, failed to rob an ancient formation master's ruins, got trapped, and finally crawled out to steal my missing brother's body. I don't kill Shui Long. I use the mirror to tear the old ancestor's spirit out of him, seal that in my cauldron to be refined down to nothing, and tuck the freed, dormant tiger brother into white jade capital to heal. The beast that maimed the dynasty's strongest turned out to be one more lost member of my family, and I brought him home. Then the tablet finishes its work and eats the world's consciousness whole, and my hidden heaven swallows a realm and levels up, and the sky over the dying world weeps, actual blood-red rain, the tears of a world mind guttering out, thunder for its death cry, and I stand in the middle of it in a white robe that not one drop touches, and Murong Xuan, watching the old myth of a falling world made real in front of him, finally understands that I am not from any dynasty he's ever heard of. I turn the eye on him and read a myriad manifestation at the 9th layer, a rare divine ability third eye that reads the truth of men, and a knot of karma tying him to my own chamber of commerce. He'd be useful. So I regrow his arm and heal his body with a wave of reincarnation, trivial for me, and the Grand Preceptor of Great Qin watches a limb grow back onto him out of nothing, and a core he thought would take centuries to mend knit shut in a breath, leaving only the soul wound for time. "Who," he asks on his knees in the blood rain, "is your excellency?" I ask him if he'd be willing to serve. He nearly weeps at the honor before he even knows my name because a ninth-layer myriad manifestation does not get offered a place by a god, he gets erased by one. He asks where he should come to recover. Kangwu Mountain, I tell him. And what should he call me? Lin Chang'an, I say, and I get to watch the smartest man in the dynasty understand the full shape of his weak in real time, because Murong Xuan knows that name. He heard it from his own crippled disciple. He is the one who decided, wisely, carefully, that the Kangwu Jiang were too terrifying to provoke, and slipped away north specifically to avoid the very chief whose feet he is now kneeling at in the mud. His caution didn't save him from me. It delivered him to me, healed and grateful, as a servant. For a moment his face does something I'll treasure, the slow horror of a strategist realizing that every clever move he made was a straight line to this exact humiliation. Then he sets it down, because a man who has spent his whole life being the most dangerous person in every room is, underneath all of it, exhausted, and I have just offered him somewhere to put that weight down. He guesses I'm some reincarnated, unfathomable thing, and he accepts on the spot, because 10 years healing on my mountain beats centuries dying in a pit, and because being owned by a god you can't fathom is, it turns out, a strange kind of relief. The ruins the old ancestor failed to rob are still here, guarded by a barrier and a 9-Dao gate of trials, and I look at the trials, and I decide I'm not in the mood to earn anything today. Rules, I tell the empty air, are for people who can't break them, and I throw my mother chi cauldron through the whole barrier and the whole 9-gate killing array and reduce it to flat ground, and walk in. Inside there's a golden saint's skeleton and a story written in Dao script, and the story is a knife. I'll only understand the point of later. The master here was an array saint named Wang Hong, passed over by his own teacher in favor of a junior brother named Nangong Sheng, driven mad enough to murder his master and chase that junior brother across worlds and finally die of the grudge. Remember the name Nangong. It's going to walk up my mountain at the very end of all this carrying a dead saint's sword. For now I take 3 pieces of divine iron off the corpse. Note that I'll need a formation talent to inherit the rest. Think immediately of Liu Shi and go home. I settle my prizes. Shui Long's tiger brothers nurse his dormant body back toward waking, weeping over a sibling they thought lost forever. Murong Xuan I billet on my mountain to heal, behind an array that hides the dynasty's strongest man from the enemies who'd finish him, and my spirit beasts belatedly realize their new sickbed neighbor is the grand preceptor of Great Qin and lose their minds. And I take the 3 divine iron into white jade capital, fold them into my natal cauldron over 3 days, feel it and my own body climb together, and step, at last, across the last threshold I've been circling. Myriad manifestation. A true lord. My vision blooms into a robe of sun and moon and stars crowned by the diagram of primordial chaos, and from the very instant I enter this realm, I am its ceiling, the supreme of all things, invincible in tier, standing above the past and the present and the future all at once. A year and a change ago, I woke up a cripple on a dead man's prayer mat with a poisoned family and an execution scheduled for lunch. Now I'm a true lord, with the dynasty's grand preceptor recovering in my guest room, a captured heaven full of a million frozen beasts, and a family so large and so bright the Empire has quietly given up on the idea of ever swallowing it, and I've still got a nephew's fate to break and a saint's grudge walking toward my gate. It's not over, it's barely even close. I hand the captured heaven to my spear boy. Liu Shi, who's just finished clearing the last of the 3 deadliest forbidden lands in the prefecture by himself, comes home at my call, and I open a teleport gate and send him into the frozen world, which I name Purple Profound Grotto Heaven, after a place from my past life, because I've decided that someday White Jade Capital is going to swallow all the grotto heavens there are and hand them to my family as land. She reads the place in one breath. A beast-rich world that hones the heart the way my family tower can't, and I make him its guardian and give him the Array Saint's legacy to inherit, because he's a rare thing, a weaponsmith and a formation master both, and I stand him up to build a city in a captured heaven and safeguard the clansmen who'll come to train there. And I take my 3 brightest, Yuan and Hao and Kai, into White Jade Capital itself, into air so dense it dwarfs Kangwu, and in the time it takes an incense stick to burn, Hao breaks into Moonwheel at 12 years old, and his blind no longer cousin Kai watches him do it, and privately swears to grow strong enough to guard the boy forever, and I sit in my hidden heaven with 3 of my children and think that this exact thing is what I traded a lonely dead man's life to get. But the report that comes back that month is Hua's, and it's the one I keep. My sword fanatic has become a legend across the whole dynasty, the White Rainbow Sword Marquise, and up on a rooftop in a distant city, in front of a crowd that packs the streets, she duels the personal disciple of the only sword king in all of Great Qin, and she doesn't just beat him, she learns his sword mid-fight, drinks his own techniques out of the air and turns them back on him until he asks, out loud, whether he's fighting a mirror, and then she disarms him and sets her blade a finger from his throat and spares him. Watching from the crowd, broken and envious, sits that Sword King himself, a man whose own foundation is ruined, expelled from his old sect over a woman a lifetime ago, who can't even qualify anymore to teach a girl like her. And with him come two visitors from the greatest sword sect of the higher dynasty, a proud young lord and a snob named Lin Ru, daughter of Sword Kings, who takes one look at my Hua and sneers that she's a foundation-burning fake. Hua lets the insults to herself roll right off because Hua has never once in her life cared what anyone thought of her. And then Lin Ru insults the Kongwu Jiang and insults me and my face-blind girl who navigates the world by the color of your clothes and looks at nothing but the blade crosses the roof and slaps the daughter of Sword Kings across the mouth. Insult me, she tells her, and I won't hold it against you, but insult my family or my clan chief, and that is the one thing in this world I will not allow. This time is a lesson. Next time I draw my sword and make you bleed 5 steps from where you stand. And be glad, she adds, that you met me and not my cousins, because they wouldn't have given you a first mistake, let alone a second. And the snob's own senior brother, the proud young lord, refuses to defend her and apologizes to Hua instead, because even a sect of arrogant strangers can tell the difference between a girl's ego and a girl's line, and my daughter just showed the whole higher dynasty exactly where the Kangwu Jiang draw theirs. She'll take any insult to herself with a shrug. Say one word against the family that gave her a sword when she had nothing, and she'll open you from throat to knee. I taught all of them a great many things. That one they taught themselves. The sword sect offers to take her home with them to the higher dynasty, the peak of the sword in all these lands, and Hua, who is so much cleverer than her foolish focused eyes let on, thinks it through and sees the whole board. She'll go, not to be recruited, to conquer. She'll walk into the greatest sword sect in the world, climb it from the bottom, take it over from the inside, and hand the whole thing, its legacies and its sword kings and its 10,000-year vault, to the Kangwu Jiang. She checks it with my grand elder through the token, one word, and gets one word back, can, and she goes. And she does exactly what she said she would, faster than anyone alive could believe, and the measure of it comes from a boy who thought he'd made history. The Heavenly Sword Sect tests its hopefuls on a trial stair, a staircase drowned in mental pressure where every step up weighs more than the last, and where you stop tells the sect exactly what you are. 50 steps buys the outer sect, 70 the inner, 90 makes you a true disciple. And that broken Sword King's own student, Duan Wu, the one Hua spared on the rooftop, comes to the sect 3 months later, burning to redeem himself, and climbs and grinds all the way to the 123rd step, past every record, but the very top of the ancient stele, past the founder's own personal disciples, the highest anyone has climbed in 1,000 years. He stands there gasping, certain he's carved his name into legend. And then he goes to leave his name on the record stele, and he sees that the numbers have changed since he last checked them, that someone climbed 1 step ahead of him 3 months ago and bumped him down a rank, and he follows the names up, curious, 10th, 9th, 8th, and his heart gets heavier with every line, past 2nd place, which belongs to the founder himself at 148 steps, the leader of the 10 Sword Kings, the record no one touched in 10,000 years. And above the founder, at the very top, is a name he already knows in his bones before he reads it. 1st place. Mei Hua, 365 steps. Duan Wu sits down on the stone. Because he clawed to 123 with everything he had, and now he knows exactly what 365 means, and it isn't a bigger number, it's a different species. It's a true dragon in the 9 heavens against a wild boar in the mud, no comparison possible. My sword fanatic, the disappointment who couldn't hold a form at 18, walked in, aced every test the sect owned, and climbed so far past the founder's own record that the founder, a celestial human who hasn't stirred in 10,000 years, woke up to meet her, and for the first time in all that time broke his own rule and took a personal disciple. She's the little martial ant ancestor of the mightiest sword sect in the higher dynasty now, ranked above its own sect master, and inside 3 months she condenses a sword spirit and becomes a sword king in her own right, the White Rainbow Sword King, a name about to shake an entire empire she wasn't even born in. I sent a girl out into the world with a sword and a warning. She's coming back with a dynasty in her pocket. My children keep doing that. I keep letting them. It's the whole point. While Hua conquers a sword sect, my other wanderer is out conquering a very different arena, and he does it exactly the way I'd hope, by being so far beyond the room that the room never sees it coming. Sushi has followed his fires all the way into the higher dynasty, and he registers for the biggest alchemy conference in a decade under the name Su Yuan, one character borrowed from his own name and one from his brother's, because even out here, surrounded by strangers, his whole heart points home. The first thing he does at the gate is pay a girl to record the whole thing on a photo stone, because Yuan never leaves the mountain, and Su cannot stand that his brother will miss a beautiful sight, and the girl takes him for a hopeless novice and pities him and offers to have her own. Master give him a few pointers. He thanks her and doesn't correct her. He never corrects them. He just lets the pills do it. The favorite is a little pill king, the coddled son of a grandmaster, who informs the whole hall that they should just award him first place now and save everyone the embarrassment. The other real contender is a hidden disciple of a rival grandmaster, a boy who's trained in the dark for 10 years specifically to dethrone the little pill king and announce himself. The two of them take one look at the nobody with the low-grade fire and dismiss him and spend the final round glaring at each other, and both of them overdraw themselves, sweating through their robes, pouring everything they have into the furnace. Su doesn't even reach for his real fires. He uses a middling flame, serene, not a bead of sweat on him, and the two prodigies decide he's a coward going through the motions and stop watching him. Then the judges open the furnaces and count. The little pill king made 5 pills, 4 fine, 1 good, and grins, sure he's won. The hidden disciple made 5, all perfect, and turns on the little pill king with a viper smile to say, sorry, I've come out on top, and the crowd is already halfway to crowning him when the judge reaches the last furnace, the coward's furnace, and stops counting at 5 and keeps pulling them out. 6, 7, 8, 9, 7 white pills. And when the judge checks them, his hand starts to shake, because every one of the 9 is flawless. Double the field, from the boy who never broke a sweat. The hidden disciple's face goes to ash, because he clawed for 10 years to make 5, and this nobody made 9 like he was pouring tea, and the whole city takes up a new name, chanting Little Pill King, Su Yuan, until it rolls out over the walls, while 2 of the proudest young alchemists in the higher dynasty stand in the wreck of their pride and understand they were never in the same competition. Su claims his prize, a blue silvergrass, one of the last things he needs to rebuild old Xuana body, and the old fraud in the ring, who came into this family meaning to use it and got adopted instead, has to sit very quietly with the fact that the disciple he once planned to exploit is about to hand him back his life. My homesick alchemist tucks away a legend and a photo stone full of sunrises for his brother and moves on, still counting down to the day the stones run out and he finally gets to come home and spar. My spear boy nearly dies for me in the grotto and gets saved by the thing I never planned. The Array Saint's legacy. Liu Shi's been inheriting turns out to be a trap. The whole ruin a spirit-nursing array built by a dead master to steal a perfect body, and when Shi comprehends deep enough, the Array Saint wakes and dives into him to overwrite him, and Shi, rather than let his body be turned against the family, moves to destroy himself first, and in that exact instant, the gray-white stone bead he carries flares and simply devours the saint's true spirit whole, a saint annihilated in a breath by a trinket in a boy's chest. My Shi lives, stronger, the legacy clean, and reports it to me shaking, and I'm not even surprised, because a boy blessed with red luck can't be permanently possessed. The fortune itself turns the ambush into a gift, and my mirror had already read the day as auspicious before he ever set foot in it. I don't tell him all that. I just ask how he's feeling, because that's the thing a boy remembers, not the analysis, and Shi nearly weeps at the question. My family has grown so vast and so lucky that the universe itself has started failing to kill them. I built a net so wide the world can't drop them through it. That was always the plan. I just didn't think it would work this well. And my newest servant reshapes an empire for me without my having to lift a finger. Murong Xuan, healing on my mountain, calls his own son and his own disciple to Kangwu, the false grand preceptor wearing the true one's face back in the capital, and when the two of them arrive and learn that the dynasty's strongest man has knelt to the Kangwu Jiang, their first instinct is to gift me the entire Great Qin Empire on the spot. Murong Xuan stops them because he's wiser than that and tells them the truth of how I like things run, quietly. Don't hand me a throne and draw every eye in the higher dynasty to my mountain. Just govern Great Qin for me in the shadows, feed my chamber of commerce, use the grand preceptor's own decree to make all 36 prefectures roll out the carpet for any traveling Jiang, and hold the empire ready to be handed over clean and whole on the day I ever bother to ask. So the most powerful faction in the dynasty becomes my invisible administration, running the country as my proxy, and I never even had to conquer it. I saved one crippled man in a pit and got an empire's civil service as the tip. A true lord. A captured heaven. A sword sect and an alchemy legend and an empire's grand preceptor. All mine. All one in the space between 2 breakthroughs. I woke up in a corpse a year and a half ago. I could stop here and it would already be the most absurd success story the world has ever told. But the world doesn't let you stop. It never does. And the thing walking up my mountain next is carrying a dead saint's grudge and a saint's own sword, and it's going to give my Yuan the fight he's been aching for since the day I caught him dying in the street. I told you to remember the name Nangong. Here's why. My coward Yuan Kai, now the lord of a whole prefecture, finally goes to fetch his wife and son out of the family that married her off to him and then spent years looking down on him for it. The Nangong. and he walks into a house that has just woken a ghost. Their old ancestor, a man named Ouyang Shi, who vanished 2,000 years ago and was filed under dead, has come back, and he's come back at the 9th layer of myriad manifestation carrying the one thing that makes all of this dangerous, because in the ruins of his own ancestral land, he awakened a saint bloodline. His founder was a saint named Nanggong Sheng, and if that name rings a bell, it's because I read it off a dead formation master's tomb a few weeks ago, the junior brother that drove Wang Hong the erased saint mad with envy across 10,000 years. And Ouyang Shi inherited that saint's arts and that saint's own natal weapon, an 8 desolation sword, and he has decided that the small, sad, fated Nanggong are going to overthrow Great Qin and rule the world, and that a man with a holy weapon and saint blood cannot possibly lose to anyone under the primordial spirit realm. The Nanggong chief, a man who never respected Yuan Kai, sneers at him even now, and Ding's loyal Moonwheel deputy takes offense, and the ancient ancestor snuffs the deputy's pressure like a candle just to make a point. And Yuan Kai, backed into a corner, does the single cleverest thing a coward has ever done, which is he baits the monster with its own arrogance. Great Qin's number 1, he tells Ouyang Shi, isn't the grand preceptor anymore. It's Lin Chang'an of the Kongwu Jiang, and the revived saint-blooded ancestor, itching to make an example and announce himself to the world, takes the bait whole and makes a wager. Bring me to this Jiang chief, and if he can beat me, you may have your wife and children, and if I beat him, you serve the Nanggong forever. Yuan Kai, who reveres me the way you'd revere a mountain, agrees so fast it's almost rude, because he has just tricked the thing that's been threatening his family into delivering itself to my front door. Ouyang Shi flies to my mountain, sneers at how ordinary it looks for the home of Great Qin's number 1, and bellows a challenge up at my sky, calling my name, demanding I come down and prove which of us is the strongest. My clan hears him and doesn't worry, because in their reckoning the only question is how fast he loses. My grand elder pings me, and I look up from a cultivation I'm enjoying and think, boring. A 9th layer myriad manifestation with a holy weapon is not anymore a thing worth my getting up for. But the family's face can't be left to shout at, and there's a better use for this than my own hands. Because I've just finished refining my second natal treasure out of that imperial weapon embryo and everything I've folded into it, a thing I named the Taiji diagram, and it is the perfect defense. One shake of it nullifies any attack from below the 6th layer of the Great Emperor realm, which is to say from anything that exists in this entire world. Hold it, and a saint cannot harm you. And on top of that, it switches off an enemy's divine abilities and artifacts, turns their cheats to dead weight. It's the exact thing my family has been missing. A shield to go with all my swords, and I've been waiting for the right hand to put it in. So I don't go down to Ouyang Shi, I send Xuan Yuan. He's been aching for a real opponent since the day I met him, an actual fight, not a face slap, and here's a saint-blooded myriad manifestation with a holy sword delivered to our gate, and it is the perfect gift for a boy who spent his whole life being the strongest thing in every room. The system posts a hidden quest for it, suppress the myriad manifestation, pays a Saint-grade vein and spring if a clansman wins, and I have complete confidence in the outcome, because Yuan carries 8-star combat power, and, tucked into his hand where he can reach it in a heartbeat, my brand new Taiji diagram as a safety net he doesn't even know he'll need. Go, I tell him. I'll wait for you to come back. He bows and goes, and my other dragon, Bai Ling, now a 9th layer myriad manifestation himself and 1 step from primordial spirit, drifts down to the gate to watch, because Bai Ling never misses a show. Yuan meets the saint-blooded ancestor in the sky over my mountain, a boy under 20 against a 2,000-year-old monster with a saint's blood in his veins, and the whole world would call it a mismatch. Ouyang Shi opens with a half-power palm the size of a hall, a strike that would kill a sunwheel, and Yuan punches it apart with 1 fist because the ancient sacred body and the immortal fire and the imperial rank scripture in him have built a body that eats heaven rank blows for breakfast. The ancestor's eyes go wide. Yuan flickers on the Kunpeng technique too fast to see, and strikes, and Shi slips it with a rippling phantom body art and whip kicks my nephew clean through a mountain peak. The Nanggong cheer, certain the boy is paced. He's not even hurt. He walks out of the rubble dusting himself off, and Ouyang Shi, who has just watched a child shrug off a blow meant to end him, stops sneering for the first time in 2,000 years and starts, at last, to take the fight seriously. Good. So does Yuan. Yuan stops holding back. 3 visions bloom off him one after another. An immortal king seated in the 9 heavens, a yin and yang diagram of life and death, a whole landscape of mountains and rivers hanging in the sky, and the watching world understands all at once that this boy carries a royal body, a thing the 9 kingdoms haven't produced in 1,000 years. And then he unfolds the grass character sword, a killing divine ability, a sword of 9 sharp leaves and cuts, And Ouyang Shi throws up his ancestor's art of invisibility to slip into the void and dodge it, and the sword shatters the void itself and wounds his real body anyway. The saint bloodline heals the gash in a breath, but it costs him, and for the first time in 2,000 years the ancestor is bleeding and afraid, so he draws his holy weapon. The 8 Desolation sword comes into his hand and the whole sky bends under its kingly law, and Ouyang Shi laughs, certain now, and brings a saint's blade down at my nephew's skull, and Yuan shakes the Taiji diagram. The holy sword goes dead in the ancestor's grip, a saint's weapon turned to a dead length of metal, its law switched off like a snuffed lamp. His invisibility won't answer. His divine abilities are gone. And in the half-breath while a 2,000-year-old monster stares at the useless thing in his hand, Xuan Yuan runs him through with the bearing shadow sword and whip-kicks him 10,000 meters straight down into the earth and stands over the crater with one foot on the ancestor's skull. Ouyang Shi, saint-blooded, holy armed, revived out of legend to conquer the world, surrenders to a boy who isn't 20 because the boy took away his cheats and then simply proved to be stronger. My reject nephew from a Wudan street just beat a myriad manifestation true lord, and the whole prefecture that came to watch goes silent because there is no story left that this family can't apparently write. Then I come down. I don't do anything. I just arrive at my own gate, and my pressure alone scatters every outside spectator for miles, sends them running and not looking back. And when Ouyang Shi meets my eyes, he sees in my pupils a whole universe of stars, all things being born and all things ending, and he understands in one glance the thing it took the Grand Preceptor a blood rain to learn, that I am past the primordial spirit, past anything he has a word for, that I could have ended him with a thought and sent a child instead as a courtesy. He kneels. He pledges the whole Nangong family to the Kangwu Jiang, his saint bloodline, and his holy sword and all, and Yuan Kai, who engineered this whole thing to save a wife and a son, smooths it over so everyone keeps their face, and I accept, because a saint-blooded myriad manifestation is a fine thing to have running errands for my Chamber of Commerce. I give the 8 Desolation sword to Yuan, spoils of his own victory, and the Nangong chief who spent a lifetime sneering at Yuan Kai stands in the ruins of his ancestors' pride and understands that the son-in-law he despised just saved his entire house. Fortune's turn. I've made a whole career out of that sentence, so that's where we are. I woke up 18 months ago, a poisoned cripple on a dead man's prayer mat, with a family about to be exterminated over lunch, and nothing to my name but a betrayal and a funeral. And now I'm a true lord. The empire bends around, with a grand preceptor healing in my guest room, and a saint-blooded ancestor kneeling at my gate, a captured heaven and a demon empire, and a sword sect and a hidden hand on the whole dynasty, and 7 veins of impossible children who came to me broken and turned into legends. The cheat was never the system. I want to be clear about that at the end. The system just handed me the tools. The cheat was that a lonely dead man got handed a crowd of strangers to love and turned out to be very, very good at it, and every single one of them loved him back hard enough to remake the world. But I'll tell you the one thing that keeps me up, the one account I can't settle with a face slap or a natal treasure, because it's the whole reason I keep climbing when I've already won everything a border family could dream of. It's Yuan. It's the dreams. Because I know what the boy in them is. That other Yuan, the one waking up inside my nephew night by night, isn't just a past life. He's a future. He's what my Yuan is fated to become, an ancient god who fought a doomed war for someone's dying wish, who reached the very ceiling of this world and then shattered the void and walked away from it, cold, alone, having dropped even the family name, leaving everything he loved behind to face the end without him. That's the destiny curled up in my warmest, most loyal child, the boy who cried in my arms and calls me uncle. He's marked for it. The world thinks I've won. The world hasn't seen the thing on the horizon that ate a whole great world once and is turning its eye this way again, the thing in old emperors. Memory is screaming at me about from inside my own bloodline, the war my Yuan is fated to lose alone, and I've decided, the way I decided everything the first morning, that it isn't going to happen. Not in this life. Not while I'm still the wall at his back. He is not going to become the cold god who walks away, because I am not going to let the world get big enough or dark enough to take him from me. I have a hidden blade becoming a demon lord, a sword saint becoming an empire, a captured heaven and a dynasty and a whole vein of gods in progress, and I am going to spend every scrap of it, forever, on one stubborn, impossible promise. My family is not going to face the end without me. I built all of this so that not one of them ever has to. So ask me again someday who the strongest man in Great Qin is, and I still won't tell you it's me. I'll tell you it's the family. And then I'll go back to building, because the mountains are still waiting, and my children are still climbing, and there's a fate out past the edge of the world with my nephew's name on it that I have every intention of breaking with my bare hands. Wait for me to come home, one of them said, flying off into the world. I've decided that's the only promise that matters. Every single one of them is coming home. I don't care what I have to become to make it true.